Nicholas Gordon steps onto Cardassian soil, his eyes immediately drawn to the rows of sharp, bony spikes protruding from the shoulders, arms, and backs of the alien delegation. The human diplomat's arrival on Cardassia Prime marks a pivotal moment in interstellar relations, with crucial trade negotiations hanging in the balance. As Nicholas approaches the Cardassian representatives, an unexpected phenomenon unfolds. Aura, a female Cardassian diplomat, visibly stiffens. Her protective spikes, normally rigid and menacing, begin to soften and retract into her body. Discomfort flashes across her face as she struggles to maintain composure during the formal greeting ceremony. The Cardassian delegation quickly ushers Aura away, leaving Nicholas bewildered. He watches as they retreat, his mind racing with questions about this unprecedented biological response. The implications of this reaction could reshape the entire landscape of human-Cardassian relations. Later in a private meeting, the Cardassian leader's words carry the weight of galaxy-altering significance. "Mr. Gordon, we've never observed this reaction in our species' history of interacting with other races," the leader states, concern etched on his reptilian features. "We must understand the cause and potential consequences." Nicholas nods, comprehending the gravity of the situation. This unexpected biological compatibility between humans and Cardassians threatens to upend the delicate balance of power in the galaxy. The Cardassian government demands Nicholas undergo extensive medical testing, a request that carries both scientific and political implications. As word of the incident spreads, tensions rise on Cardassia Prime. Some factions view this physiological quirk as a threat to their species' autonomy, calling for the immediate expulsion of all humans from the planet. Nicholas finds himself at the center of a diplomatic storm, tasked with navigating these treacherous waters while grappling with his growing curiosity about Aura and the strange effect he has on her. The situation escalates when Nicholas receives new orders from Earth. His superiors command him to exploit this biological phenomenon to gain an advantage in the trade negotiations. The directive places Nicholas in a moral quandary, forcing him to weigh his duty against the potential consequences of manipulating this newfound vulnerability. With the future of human-Cardassian relations hanging in the balance, Nicholas agrees to undergo the medical tests. He knows the results could forever alter the course of interstellar diplomacy and potentially trigger a conflict that would ripple across the stars. As he prepares for the examination, Nicholas can't help but wonder about Aura and the softening of her spikes. What does this mean for their two species, and how will it change the face of the galaxy? The fate of two worlds now rests on Nicholas Gordon's shoulders and on the mysterious biological compatibility that has turned the Cardassians' fearsome defenses into an unexpected vulnerability. As he steps into the medical facility, Nicholas steels himself for the challenges ahead, knowing that every action he takes could have far-reaching consequences for humanity and Cardassians alike. Nicholas took a deep breath as he entered the sterile confines of the Cardassian medical facility. The air carried a faint, metallic scent, and the harsh lighting cast sharp shadows across the angular architecture. As he followed the Cardassian medical staff down a long corridor, his mind raced with the implications of what lay ahead. The examination room was a marvel of alien technology, filled with unfamiliar equipment that hummed and pulsed with energy. Nicholas steeled himself as the Cardassian doctors approached, their faces unreadable masks of professional detachment. "Mr. Gordon, please lie down on the biobed," one of the doctors instructed, gesturing to a sleek metallic platform. As Nicholas complied, he caught a glimpse of movement in the adjoining room through a large observation window. His heart skipped a beat when he recognized Aura, the female Cardassian diplomat whose spikes had retracted in his presence. She was undergoing her own battery of tests, her expression a mixture of discomfort and curiosity. The examination began, and Nicholas felt the tingling sensation of advanced scanners probing his body. Hours passed as the Cardassian scientists conducted test after test, drawing blood samples and subjecting him to various stimuli. Throughout the process, Nicholas couldn't help but steal glances at Aura, their eyes occasionally meeting across the divide. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the lead scientist approached Nicholas with a datapad in hand. "Mr. Gordon, we've made a significant discovery, he announced, his voice a mix of excitement and trepidation. Your body produces a unique pheromone that triggers the softening of Cardassian protective spikes. It's harmless to humans, but its effect on our physiology is profound. Nicholas absorbed this information, his heart pounding with the implications. What does this mean for our negotiations? He asked, sitting up on the biobed. Before the scientist could answer, alarms blared throughout the facility. The door to the examination room burst open, and a group of agitated Kardashian officials stormed in. The news has leaked, one of them hissed, his spikes fully extended in agitation. There's unrest in the streets. Some are calling for the immediate expulsion of all humans from Cardassia Prime. Nicholas watched as Aura was hurriedly ushered out of her examination room, her eyes wide with concern as she glanced back at him. The Cardassian leader who had greeted Nicholas upon his arrival stepped forward, his face a mask of unwavering commitment. Mr. Gordon, we must act quickly to contain this situation, he said. Effective immediately, all human Cardassian interactions will be strictly regulated. You and your delegation will be confined to your ship until we can reach a resolution. Nicholas opened his mouth to protest, but the Cardassian leader held up a hand to silence him. This is non-negotiable. The safety and stability of Cardassia Prime must be our primary concern. As Nicholas was escorted back to the human diplomatic vessel, he caught snippets of heated debates among the Cardassian officials. Some argued for the potential benefits of this biological compatibility, while others warned of the dangers it posed to their species' identity and defense capabilities. Days passed, and Nicholas found himself trapped in a political maelstrom. His superiors on Earth bombarded him with new directives, pushing him to exploit this newfound vulnerability for diplomatic gain. The weight of their expectations pressed down on him, conflicting with his own moral compass. One night, as Nicholas paced the confines of his quarters, a soft chime alerted him to an incoming transmission. To his surprise, Aura's face appeared on the screen, her features softened by the absence of her protective spikes. Nicholas, she whispered, glancing nervously over her shoulder. We need to talk. Meet me at the abandoned warehouse in the old industrial district in 1 hour. Come alone. The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving Nicholas staring at a blank screen. He knew the risks of leaving the ship, of defying the strict regulations imposed by the Cardassian government. Yet the pull of curiosity and his growing fascination with Ori proved too strong to resist. Under the cover of darkness, Nicholas slipped out of the diplomatic vessel and made his way through the winding streets of the Cardassian capital. The warehouse loomed before him, a hulking silhouette against the starlit sky. As he approached, a figure emerged from the shadows. Aura. I'm glad you came, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. There's so much we need to discuss. As they retreated into the safety of the abandoned building, Nicholas felt a mix of exhilaration and trepidation. He knew that this clandestine meeting could have far-reaching consequences for both their species. Yet as he looked at Aura, her spikes fully retracted and her guard lowered, he couldn't help but feel that they were on the brink of something momentous. Little did they know that their secret rendezvous had not gone unnoticed. In the shadows of the Cardassian night, multiple factions watched and waited, each with their own agenda for the unprecedented biological phenomenon that threatened to reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. As Nicholas and Aura huddled in the shadows of the abandoned warehouse, their clandestine meeting was cut short by the sudden blare of sirens in the distance. They exchanged alarmed glances, knowing their time was up. We can't keep meeting like this, Aura whispered, her spikes slowly re-emerging as Nicholas stepped back. The government is implementing new measures. You need to be careful. Before Nicholas could respond, they heard footsteps approaching. They quickly parted ways, disappearing into the night. The next morning, Nicholas found himself summoned to an emergency meeting with the Cardassian officials. The room was tense, filled with stern-faced Cardassians whose spikes seemed more pronounced than ever. Mr. Gordon, the lead official began, his voice cold and formal. In light of recent events, we've decided to implement a new policy. All human diplomats will be required to wear specially designed containment suits during any interactions with Cardassians. Nicholas felt his stomach drop. Containment suits? He echoed, trying to keep his voice neutral. The official nodded, gesturing to a bulky metallic suit displayed in the corner of the room. These suits will suppress the emission of the pheromones that affect our physiology. We believe this is necessary to maintain order and continue our negotiations. Nicholas examined the suit, noting its cumbersome design and the various seals and filters integrated into its structure. He knew arguing would be futile, but the implications of this new policy took a toll on him. Over the next few days, Nicholas found himself struggling to adapt to the containment suit. It was uncomfortable and restrictive, making even the simplest gestures feel unnatural. More importantly, it created a literal barrier between him and the Cardassians, hampering the subtle nonverbal cues that were crucial in diplomatic discussions. During a particularly grueling negotiation session, Nicholas caught sight of Aura across the room. Her spikes remained rigid, unaffected by his presence thanks to the suit. He noticed a flicker of disappointment in her eyes before she quickly masked it with a professional demeanor. As Nicholas left the meeting, he was approached by a Cardassian he didn't recognize. The man introduced himself as Dr. Kelvin, a prominent geneticist. "Mr. Gordon, I have a proposal that might interest you," Dr. Kelvin said in a low voice, glancing around to ensure they weren't overheard. "I believe we can turn this situation to our advantage. With your cooperation, we could initiate a research project to study the long-term effects of human pheromones on Cardassian biology." Nicholas listened intently as Dr. Kelvin outlined his hypothesis. The geneticist believed that controlled exposure to human pheromones could lead to a permanent reduction in spike rigidity, potentially revolutionizing Cardassian society and military tactics. Seeing an opportunity, Nicholas arranged secure communication with his superiors on Earth. He carefully presented Dr. Kelvin's proposal, emphasizing the potential scientific and diplomatic benefits. "This could be a game changer," Nicholas argued. "If we support this research, it could lead to a breakthrough that benefits both our species. It might even give us a significant advantage in future negotiations." After hours of debate, Earth agreed to provide DNA samples and volunteers for the experiments. Nicholas felt a mix of excitement and apprehension as he relayed the decision to Dr. Kelvin. The research began in secret, with Nicholas coordinating between the human volunteers and Dr. Kelvin's team. He watched with fascination as the first experiments were conducted, carefully documenting the results. However, keeping such a significant project under wraps proved challenging. Rumors began to circulate among the Cardassian population, sparking heated debates about the implications of the research. Nicholas found himself walking a tightrope, trying to balance the various factions and interests at play. He was acutely aware of the radical group that had previously attempted to assassinate him, noting with concern that their ranks seemed to be swelling. One evening, as Nicholas was reviewing the latest research data in his quarters, he received an unexpected visitor. Aura stood at his door, her expression a mix of tenacity and vulnerability. "I want to volunteer for the experiments," she said without preamble. Nicholas was taken aback. "Aura, are you sure? The risks—" She cut him off. "I need to understand what's happening to me. To us. This is bigger than just you and me, Nicholas. It could change everything for both our species." As Nicholas looked at Aura, he felt the weight of the situation bearing down on him. He knew that her decision could have far-reaching consequences, not just for their personal relationship, but for the entire course of human Cardassian relations. Before he could respond, his communication console beeped urgently. An encrypted message from Earth flashed on the screen, marked with the highest level of priority. Nicholas felt a sense of foreboding as he reached to open the transmission, knowing that whatever it contained would further complicate the already volatile situation. Nicholas's eyes widened as he read the contents of the message, his face draining of color. "Aura," he said, his voice tight with tension, "we have a problem." The encrypted transmission from Earth was unequivocal. They demanded exclusive rights to Dr. Kelvin's research. Nicholas felt his stomach churn as he considered the implications. This wasn't just about scientific discovery anymore. It was about power, control, and the future of human Cardassian relations. He looked at Aura, her features softened by the absence of her protective spikes, and made a decision that would alter the course of their lives. "I can't comply with this order," Nicholas said, his eyebrows furrowed. "This research is too important to be controlled by one side. We need to share it with both human and Cardassian authorities." Aura's eyes widened. "Nicholas, are you sure? The consequences could be severe, I know," he finished for her, "but it's the right thing to do." Over the next few days, Nicholas worked tirelessly to arrange a joint meeting between key human and Cardassian officials. The atmosphere in the conference room was tense as he presented his case for shared oversight of the research. To his surprise and relief, the Cardassian government representatives were impressed by his integrity. They agreed to continue the research under joint supervision, seeing the potential for mutual benefit. However, Earth's reaction was swift and harsh. Within hours, Nicholas received a new transmission. He was being recalled from his diplomatic post, effective immediately. His replacement would be Marcus Steele, a hardline negotiator known for his uncompromising approach. As Nicholas packed his belongings, a soft knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. It was Aura, her expression a mix of concern and something else he couldn't quite read. "Nicholas, there's something I need to tell you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been experiencing changes." She explained how her prolonged exposure to human pheromones had triggered intense physical and emotional transformations. Her protective spikes had become more flexible, retracting at will, but the changes went beyond the physical. Her cognitive functions had enhanced, granting her unprecedented mental abilities. "I'm an outcast among my own people now," Aura said, her voice trembling. "But I can't ignore the potential of what's happening to me." Before Nicholas could respond, Dr. Kelvin appeared in the doorway, his eyes alight with scientific curiosity. "Mr. Gordon, Aura," he said, glancing furtively down the hallway, "I have a proposal for you both." Dr. Kelvin outlined his plan. Nicholas and Aura would leave Cardassia Prime together, continuing their research on a neutral planet away from the political pressures of both Earth and Cardassia. He believed that studying their unique bond could lead to groundbreaking discoveries in interspecies biology. As they discussed the logistics of their escape, a shadow fell across the room. Colonel Garrick, the Cardassian intelligence officer overseeing the research, stepped into view. "I couldn't help but overhear your conversation," Garrick said, his tone unreadable, "and I must say I find myself intrigued by this plan." To their astonishment, Garrick offered his assistance. He provided them with falsified travel documents and arranged for a small, unmarked ship to transport them off-world. As Nicholas and Aura made final preparations for their clandestine departure, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. A security officer burst into the room, his spikes fully extended in agitation. "The radical anti-human faction," he gasped. "They've learned of your plans. They're mobilizing to stop you." Nicholas and Aura exchanged alarmed glances. Their timeline had just been drastically accelerated. "We need to leave, now," Nicholas said, grabbing their essential supplies. They raced through the corridors of the facility, the sound of shouting and footsteps echoing behind them. As they reached the hangar, they spotted their unmarked ship, its engines already humming to life. Nicholas took the pilot's seat, his hands flying over the controls as Aura strapped herself in beside him. The ship lifted off just as the hangar doors began to close, barely scraping through the narrowing gap. As they broke atmosphere, new alarms blared on the control panel. Multiple ships were in pursuit, both Cardassian military vessels and Earth Alliance ships. "We can't outrun them all," Nicholas said, his squeezing hard on the controls. Aura's eyes darted across the star map. "There," she said, pointing to a dense cluster of asteroids. "The Baranal Belt. We might lose them in there." Nicholas nodded, setting a course for the treacherous asteroid field. As they entered the belt, he relied on every ounce of his piloting skills, weaving between massive space rocks that threatened to crush their small vessel. "Left," Aura called out, her enhanced cognitive abilities allowing her to process the asteroid movements faster than the ship's computers. "Now right. Dive." Their ship shuddered and groaned as they pushed it to its limits, narrowly avoiding collision after collision. Behind them, explosions lit up the darkness of space as their less agile pursuers met their fate among the asteroids. Finally, they emerged on the other side of the belt, the pursuing ships no longer visible on their scanners. But their relief was short-lived as warning lights flashed across the control panel. "We've taken damage," Nicholas said, his voice grim. "We're losing power to the main engines." As their damaged ship limped towards an uncharted region of space, Nicholas and Aura shared a look of dedication mixed with apprehension. They had escaped immediate danger, but their journey in the fight for their survival was just getting started. The vastness of unexplored space stretched out before them, holding both promise and peril. As Nicholas set a course for the nearest habitable system, he couldn't help but wonder what challenges awaited them, and then what discoveries they might make that could forever change the course of human-Cardassian relations. As they pondered their uncertain future, a violent shudder rocked the ship, throwing them off balance. "We're caught in a gravitational field," Nicholas announced, his hands flying over the controls. "There's a planet nearby. It's habitable." Aura leaned forward, her eyes widening as she studied the readouts. "Nicholas, look at these energy signatures. They're faint, but advanced technology," he finished, sharing a significant look with her. "We don't have much choice. We're going to have to land." As they entered the planet's atmosphere, the ship groaned and shuddered. Nicholas gritted his teeth, using every ounce of his piloting skills to keep them from burning up on entry. They broke through the cloud cover, revealing a vast expanse of lush, alien forest below. With a bone-jarring thud, the ship touched down in a small clearing. For a moment, they sat in silence, the only sound their heavy breathing and the hiss of cooling metal. "We made it," Aura said, her voice barely above a whisper. They gathered what supplies they could salvage and cautiously exited the ship. The air was thick and humid, filled with unfamiliar scents. Strange, multicolored birds called from the canopy above. As they ventured deeper into the forest, Nicholas noticed something odd. "Aura, your spikes, they're more flexible than ever." She ran a hand over her head, surprise evident on her face. "You're right, and your scent, it's intensified." Before they could discuss it further, a rustling in the undergrowth caught their attention. They froze, watching as a group of beings emerged from the foliage. The newcomers were unlike anything Nicholas or Aura had ever seen. Their bodies were covered in intricate bioluminescent patterns that shifted and changed color as they moved. One of them stepped forward, its patterns glowing a soft blue. "Greetings, travelers," it said in a melodious voice. "I am Chief Sarok of the Xylons. We've been expecting you." Nicholas and Aura exchanged shocked glances. "You've been expecting us?" Nicholas asked. Sarok's patterns shifted to a warm yellow. "We have long observed the galaxy beyond our world. We know of humans and Cardassians, though we choose to remain hidden from galactic affairs." As they followed the Xylons to their settlement, Sarok explained their situation. "Your ship is damaged, but we can help repair it. In exchange, we ask for information about the current state of the galaxy." The Xylon settlement was a marvel of organic architecture, structures seamlessly blending with the natural environment. As they walked, Nicholas noticed Aura's gait had changed, becoming more fluid and graceful. Over the next few days, they integrated into the Xylon community. Nicholas found himself fascinated by their technology, while Aura spent hours in deep discussion with Xylon scientists. One evening, as they sat together watching the alien sunset, Aura turned to Nicholas, her eyes shining. "I can control them now," she said softly. "Control what?" Nicholas asked, puzzled. In response, Aura's spikes retracted completely, leaving her scalp smooth. Nicholas gasped, reaching out to touch her head gently. The moment his fingers made contact, a jolt of electricity seemed to pass between them. Their eyes met, and suddenly the air was charged with a new intensity. Without thinking, Nicholas leaned in, his lips meeting Aura's, in a kiss that felt like a supernova exploding between them. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing heavily. "What's happening to us?" Aura whispered. Before Nicholas could respond, a Xylon scientist approached, its patterns pulsing with excitement. "We've been monitoring your physiological changes," it announced. "The combination of human pheromones and Cardassian biology, along with our planet's unique radiation, is producing fascinating results. We'd like to propose a series of controlled experiments to further understand this phenomenon. As Nicholas and Aura considered the proposal, alarms suddenly blared throughout the settlement. Chief Zarok hurried towards them, his patterns a turbulent mix of red and purple. "Our long-range sensors have detected ships approaching," he said gravely. "They bear the signatures of both Earth and Kardashia." Nicholas felt his heart race. "They've found us," he said, looking at Aura. Zarok's patterns settled into a steady green. "You have a choice to make," he said. "You can stay here under our protection, or you can face your pursuers." As Nicholas and Aura grappled with this decision, a young Xylon researcher burst into the room, cradling a strange, pulsing artifact. "Chief Zarok," it said breathlessly. "The ancient device, it's reacting to their presence." The artifact began to glow, emitting a strange energy field that washed over them. Nicholas gasped as he felt a sudden, intense connection to Aura's thoughts. Zarok's patterns flashed with awe. "This is unprecedented," he said. "It seems your unique biology may be the key to unlocking secrets we've pondered for millennia." As the energy field faded, Nicholas and Aura found themselves facing a decision that could alter not just their lives, but the course of galactic history. The approaching ships loomed ever closer, a ticking clock forcing them to choose between safety and the unknown, between hiding and confronting their past. With the ancient artifact still pulsing softly in the background, they turned to each other, knowing that whatever they decided would change everything. Everything would change forever. Nicholas took a deep breath, squeezing Aura's hand. "We can't hide forever," he said softly, "and maybe we don't have to." Aura nodded, her eyes gleaming with understanding. "You're right. We have a unique opportunity here." They turned to Chief Zarok, whose patterns swirled with curiosity. "We'd like to reveal your existence to the approaching ships," Nicholas explained. "With your permission, of course." Zarok's bioluminescence flickered through a spectrum of colors before settling on a calm blue. A bold choice, but perhaps it is time for the Xylons to emerge from the shadows. Over the next few hours, Nicholas and Aura worked feverishly with the Xylons to prepare a welcoming ceremony. They transformed the central plaza of the settlement into a dazzling display of Xylon technology and culture. Bioluminescent plants were arranged in intricate patterns, and floating orbs of light hovered above, creating an otherworldly atmosphere. As the ships entered the planet's atmosphere, Nicholas and Aura stood side by side at the center of the plaza. Aura's spikes were fully retracted, her scalp smooth, and her posture relaxed. Nicholas felt a surge of pride and affection as he looked at her, marveling at how far they'd come. The Earthship touched down first, its engines kicking up a swirl of multicolored leaves. The hatch opened with a hiss, and out stepped Marcus Steele, Nicholas's hardline replacement. His eyes widened as he took in the scene before him, a mix of awe and suspicion on his face. Moments later, the Kardashian ship landed. Colonel Garrick emerged, flanked by a group of officials. His eyes immediately locked onto Aura, narrowing as he noticed her transformed appearance. Chief Zarok stepped forward, his patterns pulsing with a warm, welcoming glow. "Greetings, travelers," he said, his melodious voice carrying across the plaza. "Welcome to Xylos." The human and Cardassian delegations exchanged wary glances. Marcus Steele cleared his throat. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded, his hand hovering near his weapon. Before Nicholas could respond, Zarok raised his hands. The ancient artifact, which had been placed on a pedestal nearby, began to pulse with energy. A wave of telepathic energy washed over the gathering, and suddenly, Nicholas could sense the intentions and emotions of everyone present. He felt Marcus's suspicion and fear, tinged with a grudging curiosity. From Garrick, he sensed a calculating mind, wheels turning as he assessed the potential advantages of this situation. And from the Xylons, a deep, abiding peace and a genuine desire for understanding. What is this?" Garrick asked, his usual composure slipping for a moment. "A glimpse into each other's minds," Zarok explained. "A chance for true understanding." As the initial shock wore off, Nicholas stepped forward. "We've discovered something remarkable here," he said, gesturing to Aura. something that could change everything. Aura nodded, then demonstrated her newfound ability. Her spikes extended fully, then retracted in a fluid motion that left the delegations gasping. Impossible, a Cardassian official muttered. Nicholas continued, outlining the potential benefits of human Cardassian compatibility. As he spoke, Xylon scientists presented their findings, showcasing holograms of cellular structures and genetic sequences. The delegations listened with rapt attention, their initial hostility fading as they began to grasp the implications. However, as the discussions progressed, Nicholas noticed a group of Cardassians whispering urgently among themselves. Suddenly, one of them broke away, pulling a small device from his pocket. Before anyone could react, he activated it, releasing a fine mist into the air. "No!" Garrick shouted, but it was too late. The effect on the Cardassians was immediate and alarming. Instead of becoming aggressive as the saboteurs had intended, their spikes began to soften and retract involuntarily. Aura gasped, her own spikes retracting completely as she stumbled. Nicholas caught her, his mind racing. He turned to the Xylon scientists, an idea forming. "My pheromones," he said urgently. "We can use them as a base for an antidote." The next few minutes were a blur of activity. Nicholas provided samples while the Xylon scientists worked at an incredible pace, their bioluminescent patterns flashing with concentration. All the while, the affected Cardassians huddled together, vulnerable and frightened. Finally, a Xylon scientist approached with a glowing vial. "It's ready," she announced. Nicholas took the vial and knelt beside Aura. "Here," he said softly, helping her drink the antidote. Within moments, her spikes began to respond to her control once again. They quickly administered the cure to the other affected Cardassians, watching with relief as they regained their natural defenses. As the crisis subsided, a new atmosphere settled over the gathering. The shared experience had broken down barriers, forcing everyone to confront their biases and preconceptions. Xerox stepped forward once again, his patterns shifting to a deep, resonant purple. "There is more we must show you," he said solemnly. He led the group to a hidden chamber beneath the settlement. There, a network of ancient artifacts pulsed with energy, responding to the combined presence of humans and Cardassians. "These artifacts," Xerox explained, "can generate a powerful energy field when activated by your combined biosignatures. This field enhances cognitive abilities and promotes peaceful coexistence among different species." The implications were staggering. Marcus Steele and Colonel Garrick exchanged glances, years of hostility melting away in the face of this new discovery. "We need to study this further," Marcus said, his voice filled with a newfound respect. Garrick nodded in agreement. "A joint research base," he suggested, "here, on Xylos." As the details were hammered out, Nicholas and Aura found themselves at the center of it all. They were appointed co-leaders of the new initiative, tasked with exploring the ancient technology and furthering the study of human Cardassian compatibility. As the meeting concluded and the delegations prepared to depart, Nicholas and Aura stood at the edge of the plaza, watching the ships take off. They would return soon with more personnel and equipment, ready to embark on this new chapter of interspecies cooperation. "Are you ready for this?" Nicholas asked, turning to Aura. She smiled, her spikes rippling gently. "With you? Always." As they walked back towards the Xylon settlement, Nicholas's mind raced with the challenges ahead. Integrating human and Cardassian scientists, respecting Xylon customs, protecting their new allies' way of life. It would be no easy task. But as he felt the warmth of Aura's hand in his, he knew they were up for the challenge. The sun began to set over Xylos, painting the sky in hues of pink and purple. As Nicholas and Aura entered their new home, ready to begin planning for the research base, they knew that this was just the beginning of a new era. Not just for them, but for humans, Cardassians, and Xylons alike. As Nicholas and Aura settled into their roles as co-leaders of the joint research base, they quickly realized that the path ahead would be far more challenging than they had anticipated. The initial excitement of the discovery had faded, replaced by the day-to-day realities of managing a diverse team of scientists from two historically antagonistic species. One morning, Nicholas walked into the main laboratory to find a heated argument between Dr. Alicia, a human geneticist, and Dr. Kovat, a Cardassian biochemist. Your methodology is fundamentally flawed, Dr. Kovat hissed, his neck ridges darkening with frustration. You're completely ignoring the unique properties of Cardassian cellular structures. Dr. Alicia rolled her eyes. And you're so focused on the minutiae that you're missing the bigger picture. We need to look at the overall genetic compatibility, not just individual cells. Nicholas stepped between them, raising his hands. Enough, he said firmly. We're all working towards the same goal here. Dr. Alicia, please consider Dr. Kovat's concerns about Cardassian physiology. Dr. Kovat, try to keep an open mind about Dr. Alicia's broader approach. We need both perspectives to make progress. The scientists grudgingly nodded and returned to their workstations. Nicholas sighed, running a hand through his hair. These conflicts were becoming all too common. Later that day, Nicholas met with Aura in their shared office. She was poring over a holographic display of the Xylon artifacts, her brow furrowed in concentration. Another day, another crisis averted, Nicholas said, collapsing into a chair. How are things on your end? Aura looked up, her spikes rippling with a mix of excitement and frustration. I've made some progress in deciphering the artifact's energy patterns, but there's still so much we don't understand. The Xylon scientists are helpful, but even they seem to have limited knowledge about their ancestors' technology. Nicholas nodded, about to respond when an alert chimed on their communication panel. Attention all personnel, came the voice of Chief Zarok. We've detected unusual seismic activity in Sector 7. A team is required for immediate investigation. Nicholas and Aura exchanged glances. We should go, Aura said. It might be related to the artifacts. Within the hour, Nicholas and Aura found themselves leading a mixed team of human and Cardassian researchers into a network of underground caverns. The air was thick with an electric charge, making the hair on Nicholas's arms stand on end. As they rounded a corner, the beam of Nicholas's light fell upon a sight that took his breath away. A massive chamber opened up before them, its walls covered in intricate, glowing patterns. At the center stood an enormous artifact, easily 5 times the size of any they had previously encountered. Incredible, breathed Dr. Tain, a Cardassian geologist. He stepped forward, his tricorder whirring. The energy readings are off the scale. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. The patterns on the walls pulsed with increasing intensity, and the central artifact began to emit a high-pitched hum. Everyone, back away, Nicholas shouted. But it was too late. A blinding flash of light erupted from the artifact, engulfing the entire chamber. Nicholas felt a searing pain in his head, followed by a rush of alien thoughts and emotions. He could sense the minds of everyone around him, human, Cardassian, and Xylon alike. As quickly as it had begun, the surge subsided. Nicholas found himself on his knees, gasping for breath. He looked up to see Aura reaching out to him, her eyes wide with wonder. Nicholas, she said, but her lips didn't move. Her voice echoed in his mind. Can you hear me? He nodded, awestruck. I can hear you, and I can feel what you're feeling. Around them, the other team members were slowly getting to their feet, looking at each other with a mix of fear and amazement. I understood them, Dr. Tain said, gesturing to his human colleagues. For a moment, I could see through their eyes, feel what they felt. As the team regrouped and began to assess the situation, Nicholas felt a strange tingling sensation at the base of his skull. He turned to Aura, seeing the same recognition in her eyes. It's not fading for us, she said silently, her thoughts flowing into his mind. Our connection, it's permanent now. Before they could fully process this new development, their communicators crackled to life. Chief Zarok's voice came through, tinged with urgency. Nicholas, Aura, you need to return to the surface immediately. We've detected an unknown ship entering orbit. They're hailing us, claiming to be the creators of the artifacts. They call themselves the Vex. Nicholas and Aura shared a look of apprehension. As they led their team back to the surface, they knew that their world was about to change once again. The activation of the massive artifact had set in motion events that would challenge their leadership, test their newfound bond, and potentially reshape the future of 4 species. With each step towards the surface, Nicholas felt the weight of responsibility growing heavier. Whatever came next, he and Aura would face it together, not just as co-leaders, but as two minds inexorably linked by ancient technology and the promise of a shared future. Future. The ground beneath their feet trembled again, reminding them of the urgency of their situation. As they emerged from the caverns, Nicholas and Aura were met with a flurry of activity. The research base was abuzz with nervous energy as scientists and security personnel rushed to prepare for the arrival of the mysterious Vex. "We need to mobilize quickly," Aura said, her thoughts flowing seamlessly into Nicholas's mind. If these Vex truly created the artifacts, they might have answers about what just happened to us. Nicholas nodded, already formulating a plan. "Let's gather our team and brief them on the situation. We'll need representatives from all sides if we're going to navigate this diplomatically." Within the hour, Nicholas and Aura had assembled a diverse group of human, Kardashian, and Xylon experts. As they discussed strategy, an alert chimed throughout the base. The Vex ship had entered the atmosphere and was preparing to land. The joint task force moved swiftly to the designated landing zone, a clearing just beyond the main research facility. As they waited, tension thick in the air, a sleek vessel unlike anything they had seen before descended from the clouds. Its surface seemed to shimmer and shift, defying easy classification. The ship touched down silently, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then a section of the hull simply dissolved, revealing a group of beings that looked like they were made of living crystal. Their bodies pulsed with internal light, and their movements were fluid and graceful. One of the Vex stepped forward, its crystalline form refracting the sunlight in mesmerizing patterns. When it spoke, the words seemed to form directly in their minds. "We are the Vex," the being communicated. "We have come to reclaim what is ours, and to judge whether you are worthy of its power." Before Nicholas or Aura could respond, an explosion rocked the far side of the research base. Alarms blared as smoke billowed into the sky. "It's Dr. Kelvin," a Xylon scientist shouted, checking a data pad. "He's activated the central artifact." Nicholas turned to the Vex representative, his mind racing. "We need your help. One of our scientists has gone rogue and is tampering with your technology. If we don't stop him, the consequences could be catastrophic." The Vex being seemed to consider for a moment, its crystalline structure pulsing rapidly. "We will assist," it finally communicated. "But be warned, the artifacts are not to be trifled with. They have the power to reshape life itself." With no time to waste, Nicholas and Aura led the newly formed task force towards the underground chambers. As they ran, Nicholas could feel the ground beneath them, pulsing with energy, growing stronger with each step. They reached the entrance to the caverns to find it guarded by a group of scientists loyal to Dr. Kelvin. Their eyes were wild, their bodies already showing signs of mutation. Some had developed scale-like protrusions, while others displayed Kardashian-like ridges. "Stand down," Aura shouted, her spikes fully extended in a show of authority. "You don't know what you're dealing with." But the guards were beyond reason. They charged forward, their movements enhanced by the artifact's energy. The task force sprang into action, each member using their unique abilities to subdue the mutated guards without causing permanent harm. Nicholas found himself fighting alongside a Vex, its crystalline form shifting and adapting to counter each attack. He marveled at its efficiency, even as he used his own enhanced reflexes to dodge a guard's wild swing. As they pressed forward into the caverns, Nicholas and Aura used their telepathic link to coordinate the team's movements. They navigated through a maze of tunnels, disarming traps and overcoming obstacles, with the combined skills of 4 species working in harmony. The energy pulses grew stronger as they approached the central chamber. Nicholas could feel his skin hardening, while Aura's spikes became more flexible. They exchanged a worried glance, knowing that time was running out. Finally, they reached the massive doors of the central chamber. The metal was warped and melted in places, testament to the power surging within. Nicholas placed his hand on the door, feeling the energy thrumming through it. "Everyone ready, Wishram?" he asked, looking around at the diverse group that had come together in this moment of crisis. Aura nodded, her mind brushing against his with a surge of purpose. The Vex representative stepped forward, its crystalline body glowing with internal light. "We are prepared," it communicated. "But be warned, What lies beyond may change you in ways you cannot imagine. Nicholas took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. With a nod to Aura, he pushed open the doors, revealing the chaos within. The central artifact loomed before them, pulsing with blinding energy. And there, at its heart, stood Dr. Kelvin, his body twisted and transformed by the very power he sought to control. The task force stepped into the chamber, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in their quest to save not just their base, but potentially the future of 4 species. As the doors closed behind them, Nicholas realized that this moment would define not only their mission, but the course of interstellar relations for generations to come. The central chamber pulsed with chaotic energy as Nicholas, Aura, and their diverse team faced Dr. Kelvin. The scientist's body had become a grotesque fusion of human and alien characteristics, his eyes wild with power and madness. "You don't understand," Kelvin shouted, his voice distorted. "This is the key to our evolution." Nicholas stepped forward, his enhanced senses reeling from the artifact's energy. "We need to shut it down, Kelvin. It's too dangerous." As they confronted the rogue scientist, the Vex representative moved with fluid grace, its crystalline form adapting to the surging power. Working in tandem with the alien being, Nicholas and Aura managed to subdue Kelvin and deactivate the artifact. In the aftermath of the crisis, the research base transformed into a hub of unprecedented collaboration. Scientists from all 4 species worked tirelessly to understand the artifact's effects and the changes it had wrought on Nicholas and Aura. Weeks passed, and the facility buzzed with activity. Nicholas and Aura found themselves at the center of a groundbreaking experiment, their unique bond the subject of intense study. "Are you sure about this?" Nicholas asked, looking at the 2 volunteers strapped into modified medical chairs. Dr. Alex Ryder, a human male with a determined glint in his eye, nodded. "We need to understand what happened to you and Aura. It's worth the risk." Beside him, Lyra Dax, a Kardashian scientist, flexed her hands nervously. "I agree. The potential benefits outweigh the dangers." Aura monitored the equipment, her spikes rippling with concern. "We'll be right here if anything goes wrong." The experiment began, a controlled burst of artifact energy engulfing the volunteers. At first, the changes mirrored what Nicholas and Aura had experienced. Lyra's protective spikes became more flexible, while Alex's skin took on a faint, scale-like texture. Suddenly, alarms blared. Alex convulsed, his body temperature spiking dangerously. Lyra's breath came in ragged gasps, her spikes hardening and piercing her own skin. "Shut it down!" Nicholas shouted, rushing to the volunteers. Aura's fingers flew over the control panel, but the energy refused to dissipate. "It's not responding." Acting on instinct, Nicholas grabbed Alex's hand while Aura grasped Lyra's. Their enhanced abilities surged, creating a telepathic link with the distressed subjects. Nicholas felt Alex's pain and fear flood his mind. Pushing through the chaos, he focused on projecting calm and stability. Beside him, Aura did the same for Lyra. Gradually, the subject's vital signs stabilized. As the energy faded, Nicholas and Aura stumbled back, exhausted. "What happened?" asked the Vex scientist, its crystalline form pulsing with curiosity. Dr. Tain, the lead Kardashian researcher, studied the readings. "It seems the artifact's energy affects each species differently. Nicholas and Aura's gradual exposure allowed for adaptation, but this rapid change was too much for Alex and Lyra's bodies to handle." This revelation sparked intense debate among the scientific team. As they discussed the implications, a Xylon researcher named Kira approached Nicholas and Aura. "Your intervention was remarkable," Kira said, her bioluminescent patterns flickering with excitement. "It appears the artifact's true purpose may be to facilitate gradual, symbiotic evolution between compatible species." As news of this discovery spread, the research facility became a hotbed of diplomatic activity. Representatives from Earth and Kardashia arrived, their faces grim with concern. Admiral Jankowski, a stern-faced human, cornered Nicholas after a tense meeting. "This technology could be a threat to humanity's genetic purity. We need to consider destroying it." Before Nicholas could respond, Gul Dukat, The Cardassian representative interrupted. Nonsense. This is an opportunity for unprecedented advancement. We should have unrestricted access to study its effects. Caught between these opposing views, Nicholas and Aura worked tirelessly to maintain peace and continue their research. But as tensions rose, they failed to notice a new threat emerging from within. Late one night, as Nicholas and Aura reviewed data in their shared office, an alarm blared through the facility. Security feeds showed armed intruders moving through the corridors with military precision. How did they get in? Aura asked, her spikes fully extended in alarm. Nicholas's enhanced senses picked up unfamiliar scents and sounds. They must have had inside help. We need to move. As they raced through the facility, coordinating with security teams, Nicholas and Aura's telepathic bond allowed them to track the intruders' movements. They soon realized the group was heading for the artifact chamber. They're after Alex and Lyra. Aura's thought burst into Nicholas's mind. Rounding a corner, they came face to face with the intruders. At their head stood a charismatic human with cold eyes and a cruel smile. Victor Kane, Nicholas growled, recognizing the notorious human supremacist from intelligence briefings. Kane's smile widened. How observant. Now step aside. We're here to cleanse this abomination and save humanity from genetic corruption. Behind Kane, Nicholas spotted Alex and Lyra, bound and gagged. The hostage's eyes widened in recognition, silently pleading for help. Nicholas's mind raced, formulating a plan. Through their bond, he communicated with Aura, coordinating their next move. You're making a mistake, Kane, Nicholas said, stalling for time. The artifact's energy isn't a threat. It's an opportunity for growth and understanding between species. Kane scoffed. Understanding? We don't need to understand aliens. We need to eliminate them. As Kane monologued, Nicholas sensed Aura's silent countdown. 3, 2, 1. In perfect synchronization, Nicholas and Aura sprang into action. Their enhanced reflexes and shared awareness made them formidable opponents. Nicholas disarmed 2 guards, while Aura's flexible spikes entangled another. The corridor erupted into chaos as Kane's followers scrambled to respond. Nicholas and Aura moved as one, their movements fluid and precise. They pushed towards Alex and Lyra, determined to free the hostages. Kane, realizing his plan was unraveling, backed away. This isn't over, he snarled, reaching for a device on his belt. Before Nicholas could stop him, Kane activated the device. A piercing whine filled the air, and the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. He's trying to overload the artifact. Aura's thought cut through the din. As security forces swarmed the corridor, Nicholas and Aura knew their true challenge was just beginning. They had to stop Kane, rescue the hostages, and prevent a catastrophic overload, all while navigating the increasingly complex political landscape threatening their fragile alliance. With perseverance etched on their faces, Nicholas and Aura pressed forward, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in their quest to protect not just their research, but the future of interspecies cooperation itself. As the dust settled from the confrontation with Kane's forces, Nicholas and Aura wasted no time in launching a comprehensive investigation into the Extremist group's origins. Their enhanced abilities proved invaluable as they sifted through encrypted communications and followed a complex trail of digital breadcrumbs. Late one night, as they pored over data in their shared office, Nicholas's eyes widened. Aura, look at this, he said, gesturing to his screen. These communications all lead back to a single source on Earth. Aura leaned in, her spikes rippling with interest. The Genetic Purity Front, she read aloud. GPF for short. It seems we've stumbled upon something much larger than Kane's small group of fanatics. As they delved deeper into the GPF's activities, a disturbing pattern emerged. Nicholas felt a chill run down his spine as he connected the dots. This isn't just about sabotaging our research, he said, his voice grim. They're targeting the entire foundation of human Cardassian relations. Aura nodded, her mind already racing ahead through their telepathic link. And I think I know their next target, she said, pulling up a file on her console. The Interspecies Summit on Xylon. It's the perfect opportunity for them to strike a devastating blow against our alliance. Nicholas immediately alerted the Joint Security Forces, setting in motion a flurry of activity throughout the research facility. As they prepared countermeasures, he and Aura sought out Dr. Alex Ryder and Lyra Dax, whose unique physiological changes had finally stabilized. In the medical lab, Alex and Lyra listened intently as Nicholas and Aura outlined their plan. "We need a way to detect potential GPF infiltrators," Nicholas explained, "something that can pick up on the subtle biological differences caused by human Cardassian compatibility." Lyra's eyes lit up with understanding. "Pheromones," she said, her newly flexible spikes twitching with excitement. "The changes to our biology must have altered our pheromone signatures. If we can isolate and detect those changes, we'll have an early warning system," Alex finished, already moving to a nearby console to begin his calculations. As the summit approached, Nicholas and Aura found themselves at the center of an intricate web of security measures. Their telepathic bond allowed them to coordinate seamlessly with Xylon and Vex security teams, creating a network of surveillance and rapid response protocols that spanned the entire facility. The day before the summit, Nicholas stood in the control room, monitoring the arrival of diplomatic ships. Suddenly, an alert flashed on his screen. "Aura," he called out, his voice tight with tension. "We have an unexpected arrival. It's Gul Dukat." Aura moved to his side, her spikes fully extended in alarm. "The hardline Cardassian military officer? He wasn't on the original guest list." Nicholas shook his head, already pulling up the ship's flight data. "No, he wasn't. And look at this. Their flight path deviated significantly from the standard route. They made a stop at an unmarked station near the Cardassian border." As Gul Dukat and his entourage disembarked, Nicholas and Aura oversaw the security screening personally. Using their enhanced senses, they detected something amiss almost immediately. "There's an unknown compound on his clothing," Aura whispered, her nose twitching. "It's faint, but definitely there." Nicholas nodded, his own enhanced olfactory senses confirming her observation. "Let's get a sample to the lab immediately. We need to know what we're dealing with." The analysis revealed a chilling truth: a sophisticated bioagent designed to target the physiological changes induced by human Cardassian compatibility. Nicholas and Aura exchanged a grim look, understanding the implications instantly. "We need to initiate quarantine procedures," Nicholas said, already moving toward the communications panel. "If this bioagent spreads, it could undo everything we've worked for." As alarms blared and emergency protocols sprang into action, Nicholas and Aura found themselves facing a diplomatic powder keg. Gul Dukat's isolation in a secure wing of the facility threatened to derail the summit before it even began. Amidst the chaos, they enlisted the help of Dr. Kelvin, whose expertise in Cardassian biology proved crucial in developing a countermeasure. As they worked against the clock to neutralize the bioagent, Nicholas couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something. His suspicions were confirmed when a series of system failures began cascading through the facility. GPF sleeper agents, Aura realized, her thoughts racing through their telepathic link. They're using the chaos as cover for sabotage. With the artifact containment units compromised and the planetary defense grid under attack, Nicholas and Aura knew they needed to take drastic action. In a moment of shared clarity, they came to a decision that would change everything. "We need to use the artifact," Nicholas said, his voice steady despite the weight of the choice, "to enhance a select group from all 4 species. It's the only way we can address all these crises simultaneously." Aura nodded, her mind already reaching out to identify potential candidates. "It's a risk," she acknowledged, "but one we have to take if we want to save this summit and preserve our vision for the future." As they moved towards the artifact chamber, alarms blaring around them and the facility in chaos, Nicholas and Aura steeled themselves for what was to come. They knew that activating the artifact would have far-reaching consequences, not just for interspecies relations, but for their own physiologies as well. The artifact loomed before them, pulsing with ancient energy. Nicholas took a deep breath, feeling the weight of countless lives in the future of 4 species resting on their shoulders. With a shared nod of commitment, he and Aura reached out to activate the device, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in their fight to preserve unity and understanding in the face of fear and division. Hatred. With a shared nod of commitment, he and Aura reached out to activate the device, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in their fight to preserve unity and understanding in the face of fear and division. The ancient artifact hummed to life, its energy pulsing through Nicholas and Aura's outstretched hands. They felt a surge of power coursing through their bodies, their already enhanced senses heightening even further. As the device's glow intensified, Nicholas spoke into his comm unit. All selected team members, report to the artifact chamber immediately. This is not a drill. Within minutes, Dr. Alex Ryder, Lyra Dax, Chief Zarok, and Zorn, a Vex energy specialist, arrived at the chamber. Their eyes widened at the sight of the activated artifact. "We don't have much time," Aura said, her spikes rippling with urgency. "The facility is compromised, and we need your help to save the summit." Nicholas gestured for the group to form a circle around the artifact. "What we're about to do is unprecedented," he explained. "The artifact will enhance your abilities, giving us the edge we need to combat the multiple threats we face." As the selected individuals stepped closer, tendrils of energy reached out from the artifact, enveloping each of them in a cocoon of light. The air crackled with power as the transformation began. Dr. Ryder and Lyra Dax gasped in unison as they felt their bodies changing, their human and Kardashian physiologies merging in ways they had never imagined possible. Chief Zarok's bioluminescent patterns flared brightly, pulsing with newfound intensity. Zorn's eyes glowed with an otherworldly light as his energy manipulation abilities expanded exponentially. Nicholas and Aura monitored the process carefully, using their unique bond to stabilize the artifact's output. As the energy cocoons dissipated, the newly enhanced individuals stood before them, their appearances subtly altered and their eyes shining with newfound power. "Incredible," Dr. Ryder breathed, flexing his hands as he felt the changes coursing through his body. Lyra Dax nodded in agreement, her newly flexible spikes twitching with excitement. "I can sense everything," she said, her voice filled with wonder. Nicholas wasted no time in deploying the enhanced team. "Dr. Ryder, Lyra, we need you to neutralize the bioagent carried by Gul Dukat. Your accelerated compatibility should allow you to synthesize an antidote quickly." The pair nodded, their movements perfectly in sync as they headed toward the medical bay. "Chief Zarok, use your heightened senses to track down the GPF sleeper agents within the human delegation. Coordinate with security forces and flush them out." The Xylon's bioluminescent patterns pulsed in acknowledgement as he strode purposefully from the chamber. "Zorn, focus on repairing the sabotage systems. We need the artifact containment units and planetary defense grid back online as soon as possible." The Vex energy specialist's eyes flickered with commitment as he set off to tackle the damaged systems. As the team dispersed, Nicholas and Aura felt a sudden shift in their awareness. Through their connection to the artifact, they sensed the emergence of a shared consciousness among the enhanced individuals. "Can you feel it?" Aura asked, her thoughts intertwining with Nicholas's. He nodded, marveling at the efficiency with which the team was now able to communicate and coordinate their efforts. This could be the key to uncovering the full extent of the GPF's plan. Using their amplified abilities, Nicholas and Aura interfaced with the facility's security systems. As they sifted through data streams and surveillance feeds, a disturbing pattern emerged. "There," Nicholas said, pointing to a section of the facility's schematics. "A hidden command center right under our noses." Aura's spikes bristled with alarm. "And look at these energy readings. They've planted explosive devices throughout the complex." The couple shared a grim look, realizing the true scope of the threat they faced. Through their enhanced link, they relayed the information to the rest of the team. Dr. Ryder's voice crackled over the comm. "We've synthesized the antidote, administering it to Gul Dukat now." "Excellent," Nicholas replied. "Once he's stabilized, we need to question him. There may be more to his involvement than we initially thought." As the enhanced team worked tirelessly to neutralize the various threats, Nicholas and Aura noticed an unexpected development. The artifact's energy was beginning to spread beyond their initial group, affecting all humans and Kardashians within the facility. "Look at these readings," Aura said, her voice tinged with both excitement and concern. "Non-enhanced individuals are starting to display minor physiological changes." Nicholas frowned, considering the implications. This could be the start of a large-scale evolutionary event. We need to decide whether to shut down the artifact or let it continue. After a moment of silent communication through their bond, they reached a decision. We keep it active, Nicholas said firmly. The potential for positive change outweighs the risks, especially given the current crisis. As if on cue, Gul Dukat entered the chamber, his face pale but determined. I owe you my life, he said, his voice gravelly. And I owe you the truth. I was manipulated by a rogue faction within the Cardassian military, working in conjunction with the GPF. Their goal is to sabotage the summit and reignite tensions between our people. Nicholas nodded grimly. We suspected as much. Are you willing to help us expose this conspiracy? Gul Dukat's eyes hardened with tenacity. Absolutely. I've been a fool, and it's time to make amends. With this new information, Nicholas and Aura quickly assembled the enhanced team for a final briefing. The artifact's energy hummed around them as they laid out their plan to assault the GPF command center and neutralize the explosives. Time is running out, Aura said, her spikes fully extended. The summit begins in less than an hour, and we must stop the GPF before then. As the team prepared for their coordinated attack, Nicholas felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. The fate of the summit and potentially the future of human-Cardassian relations hung in the balance. He looked at the determined faces around him, each individual now linked by the artifact's power and their shared purpose. Let's move out, he said, leading the way towards the hidden command center. The enhanced team fell into formation behind him, their newfound abilities humming with potential. As they approached the first security checkpoint, Nicholas knew that the true test of their interspecies cooperation was about to begin. As they rounded the corner, the team encountered their first wave of resistance. GPF operatives armed with advanced energy weapons had fortified their position behind makeshift barricades. Nicholas raised his hand, signaling the team to halt. Through their shared consciousness, he communicated a plan of attack. Dr. Ryder and Lyra Dax moved to the forefront, their enhanced human Cardassian physiology allowing them to anticipate the enemy's tactics with uncanny precision. Now, Nicholas commanded, and the team sprang into action. Dr. Ryder and Lyra Dax moved in perfect synchronization, weaving through the enemy fire with inhuman agility. Their movements were a fluid dance of human flexibility and Cardassian strength, confounding the GPF operatives who struggled to track their targets. Chief Zarok's bioluminescent patterns pulsed rapidly, creating disorienting flashes that further confused the enemy. Zorn channeled energy through his hands, creating localized force fields to deflect incoming fire. Nicholas and Aura coordinated the assault, their enhanced senses allowing them to process the chaotic battlefield with clarity. Zorn, breach on the left, Aura called out, her spikes jam-packed with tension. The Vex energy specialist responded instantly, redirecting a burst of power to shatter the GPF's leftmost barricade. The combined assault overwhelmed the defenders, and within minutes, the path to the command center was clear. As they pressed forward, Nicholas felt a surge of energy rippling through the facility. He exchanged a concerned glance with Aura, both of them sensing the artifact's influence spreading beyond their initial group. We need to move faster, Nicholas urged, pushing aside his concerns about the wider implications. The artifact's effects are accelerating. The team pushed deeper into enemy territory, encountering increasingly desperate resistance. GPF operatives fought with the ferocity of cornered animals, but they were no match for the enhanced task force's coordinated efforts. Finally, they reached the heart of the GPF command center. Nicholas and Aura's enhanced senses detected an anomaly, a hidden chamber pulsing with unfamiliar energy. There, Aura pointed, her voice tight with urgency, behind that false wall. With a nod from Nicholas, Zorn focused his abilities on the concealed entrance. The wall shimmered and dissolved, revealing a startling sight. Inside the chamber stood a massive device, its design a twisted fusion of familiar technology and alien components. Tendrils of energy writhed around it, reminiscent of the artifact's power, but somehow corrupted. It's Xylon tech, Chief Zarok growled, his bioluminescent patterns flickering with agitation. But altered, weaponized. Dr. Ryder approached the device cautiously, his enhanced senses analyzing its structure. It's designed to manipulate the artifact's energy on a massive scale, he reported, his voice grim. If activated, it could affect every human and Cardassian in range. Before they could formulate a plan to disable the device, a figure emerged from the shadows. Admiral Thaddeus Blake, his face a mask of fanatical dedication, stood before them. "You're too late," Blake sneered, his hand hovering over the device's control panel. "The future of humanity is at stake, and I won't let your misguided notions of cooperation destroy everything we've built." Nicholas stepped forward, his enhanced senses on high alert. "Stand down, Admiral. You don't understand the forces you're dealing with." Blake's eyes gleamed with a mixture of madness and triumph. "Oh, but I do. The GPF's goal isn't just about preserving human purity, it's about control. With this device, we'll create a new hybrid species, one that we can shape and mold to our will." As Blake ranted, Aura noticed subtle changes in the unenhanced humans and Cardassians nearby. Minor physiological shifts were becoming visible, slight alterations in skin texture, subtle changes in eye color. "Nicholas," she whispered through their telepathic link, "the artifact's influence is spreading faster than we anticipated. We're running out of time." Sensing the urgency, Nicholas prepared to signal the team to take action. But before he could move, Blake slammed his hand down on the control panel. "Behold the dawn of a new era," he cried as the device roared to life. Energy erupted from the prototype, washing over everything in waves of coruscating power. Nicholas and Aura instinctively reached for each other, their unique bond allowing them to channel and redirect the surge. "Everyone, link up," Nicholas shouted, extending his awareness to the rest of the team. In an instant, their minds connected, forming a collective consciousness. Through this shared awareness, they coordinated their efforts with unprecedented precision. Zorn focused on containing the energy output, creating a shimmering barrier around the device. Chief Zarok's enhanced senses identified weak points in the prototype's structure, guiding Dr. Ryder and Lyridax as they worked to disable it. The physical strain on their bodies was immense. Nicholas felt his muscles burning, his very cells seeming to vibrate with the effort of channeling the artifact's power. Beside him, Aura's spikes undulated wildly, her form shifting and adapting to the energy coursing through her. Through their telepathic link, Nicholas sensed the others struggling as well. Dr. Ryder and Lyridax moved in perfect synchronization, their bodies blurring the line between human and Cardassian as they worked to deactivate the device. Just when it seemed they might be overwhelmed, an unexpected ally joined the fray. Gul Dukat's voice crackled over the facility's communication system. "I'm overriding the Cardassian ship's security protocols," he announced. "Vex specialists, prepare to channel power from our vessel to support the containment efforts." The sudden influx of additional energy stabilized the team's efforts, allowing them to push back against the prototype's onslaught. Dr. Ryder and Lyridax, their movements a fluid blend of human ingenuity and Cardassian precision, identified a critical weakness in the device's design. "There," Dr. Ryder called out, his voice strained but triumphant. "The resonance from our enhanced physiology, we can use it to disrupt the device's core." With guidance from Nicholas and Aura, the pair aligned their efforts, exploiting the unique frequency created by their hybrid biology. The prototype began to falter, its energy output fluctuating wildly. "Now," Nicholas commanded, channeling every ounce of power he could muster through their shared consciousness. In a blinding flash of light, the device sputtered and died, its energy dissipating harmlessly into the air. As the dust settled, the team found themselves face to face with the new reality they had created. Throughout the facility, humans and Cardassians alike exhibited subtle but undeniable changes. Eye colors shifted, skin textures altered, and in some cases small ridges began to form along previously smooth foreheads. Nicholas and Aura, their bodies still crackling with residual energy, exchanged a look of mingled triumph and apprehension. They had averted a catastrophe, but in doing so, they had irrevocably altered the course of human Cardassian evolution. As the immediate danger passed, the implications of their actions began to sink in. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the corridor. representatives from Earth and Kardashia Prime, demanding answers. Nicholas squared his shoulders, preparing to face the diplomatic storm that was about to break. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew that the bonds forged in this crucible between humans, Kardashians, and their allies would be key to navigating the uncertain future they had all. Nicholas took a deep breath, steadying himself as the sound of approaching footsteps grew louder. He exchanged a meaningful glance with Aura, both of them acutely aware of the magnitude of what they were about to face. The doors to the command center slid open, revealing a group of officials from Earth and Kardashia Prime. At the forefront stood Admiral Helena Reeves, her crisp uniform a stark contrast to the chaos of the room. Beside her, Legate Tikeni Gamore's eyes widened as he took in the scene before him. "What in the name of the Union has happened here?" Gamore demanded, his gaze fixing on the deactivated prototype device. Nicholas stepped forward, his enhanced senses picking up the subtle shifts in the delegates' postures and expressions. "Admiral Reeves, Legate Gamore, we have a lot to discuss. The situation is complex." Admiral Reeves' eyes narrowed as she surveyed the room, her gaze lingering on the subtle physical changes evident in both humans and Kardashians present. "I'd say that's an understatement, Mr. Slade. Start talking." Over the next hour, Nicholas and Aura briefed the delegations on the recent events. They explained the GPF's attempted sabotage, the activation of the Xylon artifact, and the widespread physiological changes affecting both species. As they spoke, the delegates' reactions ranged from disbelief to outright alarm. "This is unprecedented," Admiral Reeves muttered, rubbing her temples. "The implications for interspecies relations are staggering." Legate Gamore nodded, his expression grave. "Not to mention the potential military applications. These enhancements could shift the balance of power significantly." Nicholas raised his hand, cutting off the murmurs that had begun to spread through the group. "Before we get ahead of ourselves, I believe a demonstration is in order. Dr. Ryder, Lyridax, if you would." The human Kardashian pair stepped forward, their movements perfectly synchronized. They began to showcase their enhanced abilities, moving with inhuman speed and agility, processing complex data streams with ease, and demonstrating heightened sensory perception. Gasps and whispers erupted from the delegates. A human official with graying hair stepped back, his face pale. "This is too much. We need to separate those who've been affected from those who haven't. For safety reasons, of course." His words sparked an immediate uproar. Kardashian and human delegates alike began arguing, their voices rising in a cacophony of fear and indignation. Nicholas felt a surge of frustration, but before he could intervene, Aura placed a hand on his arm. Through their bond, he sensed her calm willpower. She stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. "Segregation is not the answer," Aura stated firmly. "These changes are not a threat, but an opportunity. Our task force has demonstrated the incredible potential of human Kardashian cooperation. Together, we've achieved things neither of our species could have done alone." As if to punctuate her words, an urgent message flashed across the room's main screen. Chief Xerok quickly decrypted it, his bioluminescent patterns pulsing with excitement. "It's from the Xylon homeworld," he announced. "The activation of our artifact has triggered a chain reaction. Similar devices are awakening across Xylon territory." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Nicholas seized the moment, addressing the stunned delegates. This event, known as the Convergence in Xylon legends, was prophesied to mark the beginning of a new era of galactic cooperation. We're not just dealing with a local phenomenon. This is part of something much bigger. Admiral Reeves frowned, her tactical mind already racing. "We need more information. Mr. Slade, can you control these artifacts?" Nicholas nodded, gesturing to Zorn and the Vex energy specialists. "We're working on stabilizing the energy output. Interestingly, the device seems to respond to the combined biosignatures of evolved humans and Kardashians. It's as if it was designed for our cooperation." As the delegates digested this information, Dr. Ryder and Lyridax approached, their faces alight with excitement. "We've made a breakthrough," Dr. Ryder announced. "The physiological changes extend to the genetic level. They're addressing long-standing biological incompatibilities between our species. Lyridax continued, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. In essence, these modifications are paving the way for viable interspecies reproduction. The revelation sent shockwaves through the room. Delegates erupted into heated discussions, some seeing the potential for unprecedented peace, others fearing the loss of their species' identity. Amidst the chaos, an unexpected voice cut through the noise. Gul Dukat stepped forward, his face set with persistence. "I have a proposal," he announced, silencing the room. "We should create a joint human Cardassian exploratory fleet. This initiative would allow us to investigate other Xylon artifacts across the galaxy while working together to understand and manage our evolving biology." Nicholas and Aura exchanged surprised glances. It was a bold move, but one with undeniable potential. They quickly began drafting plans, recommending crews composed of both changed and unchanged individuals from both species. As the discussions continued late into the night, a tentative agreement began to take shape. A temporary joint council would be formed to oversee the management of the physiological changes and the proposed exploratory initiative. Admiral Reeves approached Nicholas and Aura, her expression a mix of concern and commitment. "We're entering uncharted territory here," she said quietly. "The council will need strong leadership to navigate these waters. We'd like you two to serve as co-chairs." Nicholas looked at Aura, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on their shoulders. Through their bond, he sensed her readiness to face this new challenge. Together, they turned back to Admiral Reeves and nodded their acceptance. As the meeting adjourned, Nicholas stood at the viewport, gazing out at the stars. The universe suddenly seemed vaster, filled with both promise and peril. He felt Aura's presence beside him, their shared consciousness buzzing with the possibilities that lay ahead. "You're right. Are we ready for this?" he asked softly. Aura's hand found his, their fingers intertwining. Together, she replied, "We can face anything." As they stood there, the first light of a new dawn began to creep over the horizon, heralding the beginning of an era that would reshape the galaxy in ways they had yet to imagine. Imagine, as the first rays of sunlight painted the sky, Nicholas and Aura turned their attention to the monumental task ahead. In the weeks that followed, the joint human Cardassian exploratory fleet initiative gained momentum. Nicholas and Aura found themselves at the center of a whirlwind of activity, overseeing the construction of a revolutionary vessel designed to accommodate the evolving physiologies of both species. The ship, christened Convergence, took shape in the orbital shipyards above the research planet. Its sleek hull incorporated cutting-edge Xylon and Vex technologies, making it uniquely suited for investigating the ancient artifacts scattered across the galaxy. Nicholas stood on the observation deck, watching as construction drones swarmed around the Convergence's frame. Aura joined him, her presence a comforting warmth in his mind. "It's incredible," Nicholas murmured, gesturing to the ship. "A year ago, this level of cooperation between our species seemed impossible." Aura nodded, her eyes tracking the intricate dance of the construction teams. "And yet, here we are. Though I fear not everyone shares our optimism." Before Nicholas could respond, Dr. Ryder's voice crackled over the intercom. "Nicholas, Aura, we need you in engineering. There's something you should see." Exchanging worried glances, they hurried to the engineering bay. Dr. Ryder and Lyridax stood hunched over a console, their faces illuminated by the glow of holographic readouts. "What's the problem?" Nicholas asked, stepping closer to examine the display. Dr. Ryder ran a hand through his disheveled hair. "We were running a routine scan of the power core when we detected an anomaly. At first, we thought it was a malfunction in the scanning equipment, but..." Lyridax picked up where he left off, her voice tinged with excitement. "The core has been altered at the quantum level. It's as if it's responding to the lingering energy from the artifact." Nicholas felt a surge of concern. "Is it dangerous?" "Not dangerous," Dr. Ryder clarified, "but definitely unexpected. Watch this." He activated a new scan, and they watched as the core pulsed with an otherworldly light. As the energy output increased, so did the bio readings of the changed humans and Cardassians in the room. Aura's eyes widened. It's resonating with our biology. Exactly, Lyridax confirmed. We believe this is a breakthrough in understanding the connection between the artifacts and our physiological changes. The ancient Xylons may have designed their technology to respond to an enhanced compatible species. Nicholas absorbed this information, his mind racing with the implications. Could this be part of some long-term plan for galactic evolution? Before anyone could answer, an alarm blared through the ship. Chief Xeroc's voice came over the comm system, tense and urgent. Nicholas, Aura, we have a situation in the mess hall. Some of the unchanged crew members are expressing their discomfort with their evolving colleagues. Nicholas sighed, exchanging a weary look with Aura. We'll handle it. Dr. Ryder, Lyridax, continue your analysis of the core. We need to understand every aspect of this technology before our maiden voyage. As they made their way to the mess hall, Nicholas and Aura could hear raised voices and the sound of breaking objects. They entered to find two groups facing off, unchanged humans and Cardassians on one side, their changed counterparts on the other. What's going on here? Nicholas demanded, his voice cutting through the chaos. A human ensign stepped forward, his face flushed with anger. They're not normal. How can we trust them to do their jobs when they're changing every day? A changed Cardassian, his scales shimmering with an iridescent sheen, retorted, Our changes make us more efficient, more capable. You're just jealous. Aura raised her hand, projecting a sense of calm through her enhanced empathic abilities. Enough. This ship, this mission, requires all of us to work together. Our differences are our strength, not our weakness. Nicholas nodded, building on Aura's words. From this moment on, we're implementing a new training program. Changed and unchanged crew members will be paired for key shipboard functions. You'll learn to trust each other, to rely on each other's strengths. The tension in the room began to dissipate, replaced by a mix of uncertainty and grudging acceptance. As Nicholas and Aura began organizing the new teams, an urgent message flashed on their personal communicators. Priority transmission from the Joint Council, Nicholas read aloud, his expression growing grave. Reports of unauthorized experiments on Cardassian worlds attempting to replicate the changes we experienced here. Aura's spikes rippled with concern. The results? Dangerous mutations, uncontrolled biological alterations. The Council wants us to lead a diplomatic mission to Cardassia Prime to negotiate regulations on this research. As they digested this news, another alert chimed. Chief Xeroc's voice filled the room, excitement evident in his tone. Long-range sensors have detected a massive energy surge from a remote Xylon outpost. It appears to be an artifact, far larger than the one we encountered here. Nicholas and Aura locked eyes, the weight of their responsibility settling heavily on their shoulders. They had mere moments to make a decision that could affect the future of human-Cardassian relations and the stability of the galaxy itself. We need to split our efforts, Aura said finally, her voice firm. You take the diplomatic mission to Cardassia Prime. I'll lead the Convergence to investigate this new artifact. Nicholas felt a pang of apprehension at the thought of separation, but he knew she was right. He nodded, squeezing her hand. Be careful out there. We don't know what you might be flying into. As the crew scrambled to prepare for their respective missions, Nicholas and Aura stood at the viewport one last time, watching as the Convergence's engines hummed to life. The ship's hull gleamed in the starlight, a testament to what humans and Cardassians could achieve together. Ready? Nicholas asked, feeling the familiar mix of excitement and trepidation that came with a new mission. Aura's response echoed in his mind, a blend of drive and affection. Always. Let's show the galaxy what we're capable of. With a final shared glance, they parted ways. Nicholas to his diplomatic shuttle, Aura to the bridge of the Convergence. As the ships prepared for departure, both leaders knew that the challenges ahead would test not only their leadership and evolving abilities, but also the strength of their bond across the vast distances of space. The Convergence's engines flared to life, propelling the ship toward the unknown artifact. Simultaneously, Nicholas's shuttle broke orbit, setting a course for Cardassia Prime. As the distance between them grew, both Nicholas and Aura steeled themselves for the trials to come. each carrying a piece of the other in their shared consciousness. Consciousness. The mental link between them stretched thin as their ships diverged, but it remained a comforting tether across the vastness of space. Nicholas settled into his seat aboard the diplomatic shuttle, reviewing his notes on Kardashian politics. The ship hummed softly as it accelerated towards Kardashia Prime. Suddenly, a blinding flash filled the viewports, and the shuttle lurched violently. "Solar flare!" the pilot shouted, hands flying over the controls. "Navigation and comms are down!" Alarms blared as the shuttle tumbled through space. Nicholas gripped his chairs, his mind racing. "Can we maintain our heading?" The pilot shook her head. "Negative. We're being pulled off course by the flare's radiation. Closest habitable world is Rakantha Prime. We'll have to attempt an emergency landing." Nicholas nodded grimly. "Do it." The shuttle streaked through Rakantha Prime's atmosphere, its hull glowing red-hot. With a bone-jarring impact, it skidded across a rocky plain before grinding to a halt. As the dust settled, Nicholas and his team emerged from the shuttle. The air was thick and humid, with an unfamiliar metallic tang. In the distance, sleek Cardassian architecture rose against a purple sky. A delegation approached, led by a stern-faced Cardassian. "I am Gultrapar, governor of this colony," he announced. "What brings you to Rakantha Prime so abruptly?" Nicholas stepped forward. "I'm Nicholas Chen, Federation diplomat. We were en route to Kardashia Prime when a solar flare forced us down. We request temporary sanctuary while we repair our ship." Gultrapar's eyes narrowed. "Very well, but I must warn you, our colony has been experiencing unusual phenomena lately." As they walked toward the settlement, Nicholas noticed fields of lush, vibrant crops that seemed out of place in the harsh landscape. Cardassian workers moved with unexpected grace, their scales shimmering with an iridescent sheen. "The artifact's energy," Nicholas murmured. "It's affecting your people, too." Gultrapar nodded. "Indeed. Our crop yields have increased tenfold, and many colonists report enhanced strength and resilience. But not everyone sees these changes as beneficial." A commotion erupted in a nearby square. A group of unchanged Cardassians faced off against their changed counterparts, shouting and shoving. "Abominations!" a voice rose above the din. A charismatic Cardassian stepped forward, his eyes blazing. "Look at what they've become! This is an assault on Cardassian purity." "Glyn Rezok," Gultrapar said quietly, "leader of those who oppose the changes." Nicholas felt a familiar tingling sensation across his skin. His own physiology was adapting rapidly to the planet's conditions, more quickly than he'd experienced before. He took a deep breath, and suddenly the scents around him intensified. The metallic air, the sweet aroma of the crops, and the unique pheromone signatures of the Cardassians. To his surprise, several nearby Cardassians turned to look at him, their expressions a mix of confusion and intrigue. Nicholas realized his own pheromone production had increased dramatically. "Gultrapar," he said urgently, "I believe I can help mediate this conflict. But first I need to understand the full extent of the changes your people are experiencing." Meanwhile, light years away, Aura stood on the bridge of the Convergence, watching as the massive Xylon artifact grew larger on the console. The ship shuddered as it passed through another spatial anomaly. "Shields holding at 82%, reported Lieutenant Vex, her fingers dancing over the controls. The Vex's cybernetic implants pulsed with energy, allowing her to interface directly with the ship's systems. Aura nodded, feeling the Convergence's systems through her enhanced connection to the ship. "Status of the anomalies?" Dr. Ryder's voice came over the comm. "They're increasing in frequency and intensity. The artifact seems to be generating them, perhaps as a defense mechanism." "Or a test," Aura mused. She turned to her changed officers. "Use your enhanced perception. See if you can intuit a pattern in the anomalies." The changed crew members closed their eyes, their bodies thrumming with energy. After a moment, they began calling out coordinates and vectors. Aura relayed the information to the helm, and the Convergence wove through the anomalies with newfound grace. Lyridax approached Aura, her expression troubled. "The unchanged crew are struggling to keep up, Some are showing signs of stress and fatigue. Aura frowned. The divide between change and unchanged was growing more pronounced. She opened her mouth to respond when an alarm blared. Multiple ships approaching at high warp, Chief Xerok announced. Composition? Aura demanded. Dr. Ryder's voice crackled over the comm. It's incredible. The fleet consists of ships from at least a dozen different species, and they're all showing signs of artifact-induced changes. Aura straightened, her mind racing. This encounter could change everything they thought they knew about the artifacts and their place in the galaxy. Open a channel, she ordered. Let's see if they're here for the same reason we are. As the Convergence prepared for first contact, Nicholas found himself in the heart of Rakantha Prime's power facility. Alarms blared as engineers scrambled to contain a meltdown triggered by Glenn Rezik's sabotage attempt. Nicholas placed his hands on the overloading reactor, feeling the energy coursing through him. With a surge of concentration, he channeled his enhanced abilities into the machine. To his amazement, he felt the reactor stabilizing. "It's working," shouted a changed Kardashian engineer. "Keep going." As Nicholas poured more of himself into the reactor, he noticed the engineer's scales beginning to shimmer with the same iridescence as his own. Somehow he was transferring his abilities through physical contact. The implications of this discovery raced through Nicholas's mind as the reactor finally stabilized. He stumbled back, exhausted but exhilarated. Gultrapar approached, his expression a mix of awe and concern. "You've saved our colony, Diplomat Chen, but I fear this incident will only intensify the divide between changed and unchanged." Nicholas nodded grimly. "We need to address this head-on. Gather your people. It's time we had an open dialogue about the future of Rakantha Prime, and perhaps all of Kardashia." As Nicholas prepared to face the colonists, his thoughts turned to Aura and the Convergence. He could only imagine the challenges they were facing as they approached the massive artifact. Little did he know that at that very moment, Aura was about to make a decision that would alter the course of their mission, and possibly the future of the galaxy itself. As Nicholas prepared to address the colonists of Rakantha Prime, a priority transmission from Kardashia Prime interrupted his thoughts. The message was urgent. His presence was required immediately in the capital. With a heavy heart, Nicholas realized he would have to leave the delicate situation on Rakantha Prime unwillpowered. "Gul Trapar," Nicholas said, turning to the colony's leader. "I must depart for Kardashia Prime. The situation there requires my immediate attention." The Ghoul nodded, his expression grave. "I understand, Diplomat Chen. We will continue our efforts to maintain peace here. Your actions today have given us hope." Within hours, Nicholas's repaired shuttle was breaking through Rakantha Prime's atmosphere. As the planet receded behind him, he felt a twinge of regret, hoping the fragile peace he'd helped establish would hold. The journey to Kardashia Prime was tense, with Nicholas reviewing reports and preparing for the challenges ahead. As the shuttle descended through the planet's atmosphere, he could see the sprawling capital city below, its architecture a testament to Kardashian engineering and aesthetics. Upon landing, Nicholas was greeted by Legate Takani Gamor, a tall, imposing Kardashian with piercing eyes and an air of authority. "Diplomat Chen," Gamor said, his voice a low rumble, "your arrival is most timely. The situation here has escalated." As they walked briskly through the spaceport, Nicholas noticed the tension in the air. Kardashians moved with purpose, their conversations hushed and urgent. Gamor led him to a waiting transport, and as they sped toward the Central Command, he began to brief Nicholas on the latest developments. "The rumors of physiological changes have spread like wildfire," Gamor explained. "There's unrest in the streets, and the Central Command is divided on how to proceed." Nicholas nodded, feeling a familiar tingling sensation across his skin. His body was already adapting to the new environment, and he could sense the subtle pheromones of the Kardashians around him. As they entered the Central Command building, Nicholas was struck by the intensity of the atmosphere. High-ranking Kardashian officials hurried through the corridors, their faces etched with concern. Gamor led him to a large conference room where the members of the Central Command waited. The moment Nicholas stepped into the room, he felt a surge of energy course through his body. His pheromone production spiked unexpectedly, filling the air with a potent cocktail of chemical signals. The effect on the Cardassian officials was immediate and striking. Several of the Cardassians leaned forward, their pupils dilating as they inhaled deeply. Others recoiled, their scales filled with agitation. Nicholas struggled to control this new development, realizing that his evolving physiology could significantly impact the delicate negotiations. "Gentlemen," Nicholas began, his voice steady despite the inner turmoil, "I understand the gravity of the situation we face. The changes affecting both humans and Cardassians present unique challenges, but also opportunities for growth and cooperation." As he spoke, Nicholas noticed the officials' reactions fluctuating. Those who had initially seemed receptive to his words now hung on every syllable, while the agitated members grew increasingly restless. One Cardassian, his face flushed with anger, stood abruptly. "This is outrageous. Can't you see what's happening? He's manipulating us with these alien pheromones." Before Nicholas could respond, alarms blared throughout the building. A young Cardassian aide burst into the room, his eyes wide with panic. "Legate Gaymore," the aide gasped. "We have a situation in the city. The secret experiments. They've gone wrong. Mutated subjects have escaped containment." The room erupted into chaos as the officials demanded information and shouted orders. Nicholas locked eyes with Gaymore, who nodded grimly. "Diplomat Chen," Gaymore said, his voice cutting through the noise, "it seems we require your unique abilities once again. Are you prepared to assist us in containing this threat?" Nicholas took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. He knew that his actions here could shape the future of human-Cardassian relations and potentially the entire galaxy. "I am," Nicholas replied firmly, "but I'll need your full cooperation and resources. We must act quickly to prevent further spread and panic." As Gaymore began to outline the situation, Nicholas felt a wave of discomfort wash over him. The prolonged separation from Aura was taking its toll, revealing an unexpected aspect of their physiological bond. He pushed the discomfort aside, focusing on the task at hand. "We'll need to assemble a specialized team," Nicholas explained. "I can temporarily transfer some of my enhanced abilities to your people, giving us a better chance of safely subduing the mutated individuals." The Central Command members exchanged wary glances, but the urgency of the situation outweighed their reservations. With a nod from Gaymore, they agreed to Nicholas's plan. As they moved to implement the strategy, Nicholas couldn't help but wonder about Aura and the Convergence. Little did he know that light years away, she was facing her own critical decisions that would shape the future of their shared mission and the galaxy at large. Nicholas pushed his concerns aside, focusing on the immediate crisis. Time was of the essence, and he knew that the actions he took in the next few hours could mean the difference between containment and catastrophe on Cardassia Prime. Nicholas took a deep breath, steeling himself for the challenge ahead. The alarms continued to blare throughout the Central Command building as he turned to address the assembled Cardassian officials. "We need to act quickly," he said, his voice carrying a newfound authority. "I believe I can communicate with the mutated subjects and help stabilize their condition." Legate Gammer's eyes narrowed. "How do you propose to do that, Diplomat Chen?" Nicholas felt a surge of energy course through his body as he explained his plan. "My enhanced pheromones, combined with a modified version of the artifact's energy, could create a stabilizing field. It's our best chance to contain this situation without resorting to violence." The room fell silent as the Cardassian officials exchanged wary glances. Finally, Gaymore nodded. "We have little choice. Proceed, Diplomat Chen, but know that the safety of our people is paramount." As Nicholas and a hastily assembled team of Cardassian scientists began preparations, he felt a wave of discomfort wash over him. His skin tingled, and he noticed small, hard bumps forming along his neck. The changes were accelerating, likely due to his prolonged separation from Aura. In the heart of Cardassia Prime's sprawling capital, Nicholas and his team set up a temporary containment facility. They worked tirelessly, installing emitters designed to project the stabilizing field. As they finished the setup, the first reports of mutated Cardassians approaching their location came in. Nicholas stepped outside the facility, his heightened senses immediately picking up the pheromone signatures of the approaching mutants. He focused, channeling his own pheromone output to attract their attention. The first mutated Cardassian appeared from around a corner, its body grotesquely altered. Scales had grown into sharp protrusions, and its eyes glowed with an unnatural light. Nicholas stood his ground, releasing a steady stream of pheromones. "We're here to help," Nicholas said, his voice calm but firm. "You're safe now. Follow me." To the amazement of the Cardassian security forces watching from a distance, the mutant's aggressive posture relaxed. It took a tentative step towards Nicholas, then another. Soon, more mutated Cardassians emerged, all drawn to the diplomat's pheromone signal. As Nicholas led them into the containment facility, he felt the strain of maintaining such intense pheromone output. Sweat beaded on his forehead, and he noticed with a start that his skin had taken on a faint gray tinge. Inside the facility, Nicholas activated the stabilizing field. The air hummed with energy as the combined effect of his pheromones and the modified artifact energy enveloped the mutated Cardassians. They writhed and convulsed, but Nicholas could see the most extreme mutations beginning to recede. Hours passed as Nicholas worked tirelessly to stabilize the affected Cardassians. Each successful stabilization took a toll on his body. The bumps on his neck grew more pronounced, and small protrusions began to form along his shoulders. As the last of the mutated Cardassians was brought under control, Nicholas stumbled, his vision blurring. Legate Gemor caught him before he could fall. "You've done it, Diplomat Chen," Gemor said, his voice filled with a mixture of awe and concern. "But at what cost to yourself?" Nicholas managed a weak smile. "It was necessary," he said, his voice hoarse, "but our work is a long way to go." As the Cardassian medical team examined the stabilized mutants, Nicholas noticed something unexpected. The affected individuals were regaining control of their faculties, but they retained some of their enhanced abilities. One Cardassian, his scales still faintly iridescent, demonstrated increased strength by effortlessly bending a metal bar. Legate Gemor approached Nicholas, his expression grave. "This development raises questions. We may have inadvertently created a new subspecies of Cardassian." Nicholas nodded, his mind racing. "We'll need to establish protocols for integrating them back into society, and we must investigate how this happened in the first place." As they discussed the next steps, a young Cardassian aide rushed into the room, his face pale. "Legate Gemor, we've uncovered something disturbing. There's evidence of a secret organization within our government. They call themselves the heirs of Tain. We believe they were behind the unauthorized experiments." Nicholas felt a chill run down his spine. The mission on Cardassia Prime had just become far more complex than he'd anticipated. As he prepared to delve into this new conspiracy, he couldn't help but wonder about Aura and the Convergence. Little did he know that light years away, she was facing her own critical decisions that would shape the future of their shared mission and the galaxy at large. Nicholas's mind raced as he processed the implications of this new information. The heirs of Tain posed a far greater threat than he had initially anticipated. He turned to Legate Gemor, his expression grim. "We need to investigate this immediately," Nicholas said, his voice low and urgent. "The heirs of Tain could be behind the unauthorized experiments that led to the mutations we just contained." Gemor nodded, his facial ridges furrowing with concern. "Agreed. But we must proceed with caution. If this organization has infiltrated our government, we don't know who we can trust." Nicholas felt a sudden surge of energy course through his body, his senses sharpening. He realized his changing physiology might give them an advantage in this investigation. "I have an idea," Nicholas said, his eyes gleaming with perseverance. "My altered biosignature might allow me to bypass Cardassian security measures. I can infiltrate their facility and gather the evidence we need." Gemor hesitated, then nodded. "It's risky, but it may be our best option. I'll provide you with what limited resources I can trust." Within hours, Nicholas found himself descending into the depths beneath Cardassia Prime's capital city. His skin tingled as he passed through security checkpoints, the Cardassian scanners failing to detect his presence. The narrow corridors twisted and turned, leading him deeper into the heart of the hidden facility. As Nicholas rounded a corner, he froze. Before him stretched a vast laboratory filled with pulsing, artifact-derived technology and holographic displays of genetic data. He moved cautiously through the space, his enhanced vision allowing him to absorb information from multiple screens simultaneously. Suddenly, a voice broke the silence. "Fascinating. You're more advanced than I anticipated." Nicholas spun around to face a tall, imposing Kardashian with cold, calculating eyes. He recognized him immediately from intelligence briefings. Dr. Krell Mosay, the notorious scientist known for his unethical experiments. "Dr. Mosay," Nicholas said, his muscles tensing for a potential confrontation. "I should have known you'd be involved in something like this." Mosay smiled, a predatory gleam in his eyes. "Oh, I'm involved in far more than you realize, Diplomat Chen. The heirs of Tain have been working towards a goal that will reshape the galaxy, and you, my dear hybrid, are providing us with invaluable data." Nicholas's mind reeled as Mosay explained their plan to create a superior Kardashian-human hybrid using artifact technology. He realized with growing horror that his own changing body was inadvertently fueling their research. As Mosay spoke, Nicholas felt a wave of pain and disorientation wash over him. The prolonged separation from Aura was taking its toll, making it difficult to focus. He gritted his teeth, fighting to maintain control. Mosay noticed his discomfort and smiled. "Ah, yes, the bond between you and your partner. Another fascinating aspect of your transformation. Perhaps we should study that more closely." Nicholas's vision blurred as Mosay advanced towards him. In that moment of weakness, Mosay struck, attempting to subdue Nicholas with a neural inhibitor. But Nicholas's enhanced reflexes kicked in, allowing him to dodge the attack and retaliate with surprising speed and strength. The two grappled, crashing into delicate equipment and sending sparks flying. Nicholas's enhanced strength gave him an advantage, but the pain of separation threatened to overwhelm him at any moment. Just as Nicholas felt his control slipping, a sudden warmth flooded his mind. He gasped as he felt Aura's presence, a psychic link bridging the vast distance between them. Energy surged through him, stabilizing his condition and sharpening his focus. With renewed strength, Nicholas broke free from Mosay's grasp and delivered a swift, powerful blow that sent the Kardashian scientist crumpling to the ground. Without wasting a moment, Nicholas rushed to the central computer terminal. His fingers flew across the alien interface, his enhanced cognitive abilities allowing him to quickly navigate the complex system. As he downloaded crucial data, his eyes widened at the scope of the information before him. The heirs of Tain had a galaxy-wide network of secret facilities and operatives, with agents embedded in governments across multiple species. Alarms blared as Nicholas completed the download. He could hear the pounding of feet as Kardashian security forces approached. With the vital intelligence secured, Nicholas knew he had to escape quickly. He sprinted through the twisting corridors, his enhanced speed and agility allowing him to outpace his pursuers. As he emerged onto the streets of the capital, Nicholas found himself in a sea of Kardashian citizens. To his surprise, his evolving physiology allowed him to blend in, his features subtly shifting to appear more Kardashian. Nicholas weaved through the crowded streets, his mind racing. The information he carried could reshape the balance of power in the quadrant. He needed to find a way to safely transmit the data to both Earth Alliance and the Kardashian Central Command, while exposing the heirs of Tain conspiracy. As he ducked into a shadowy alley, Nicholas felt the psychic link with Aura intensify. He sensed her persistence, her decision to come to his aid. A mixture of relief and concern washed over him. Their reunion was crucial, but he knew the dangers that lay ahead. Nicholas pressed on, evading capture, as he searched for a secure location to transmit the data. The streets of Kardashia Prime buzzed with activity, oblivious to the conspiracy that threatened to upend their world. As night fell, casting long shadows across the city, Nicholas realized that the choices he and Aura made in the coming hours would shape the future of not just their mission, but the entire galaxy. As night fell, casting long shadows across the city, Nicholas felt a sudden surge of warmth flood his mind. The psychic link with Aura intensified, bridging the vast distance between them. Nicholas gasped as sensations and emotions flowed through the connection. He could feel Aura's commitment, her fear, and her unwavering dedication. The link accelerated the changes in his body, and he watched in amazement as his skin began to shift and ripple, taking on the texture of the nearby wall. Seizing the opportunity, Nicholas pressed himself against the building, his body seamlessly blending with the Cardassian architecture. A patrol of security forces rushed past, their eyes scanning the area but failing to notice him. As soon as they passed, Nicholas slipped into the entrance of the underground tunnel system. The damp, musty air filled his nostrils as he navigated the twisting passages. His newly developed camouflage ability proved invaluable as he narrowly avoided detection by maintenance workers and security patrols. Through the psychic link, Nicholas sensed Aura's predicament aboard the Convergence. He could almost see the pursuing Klingon and Romulan ships, their weapons fire lighting up the void of space. He felt Aura's split-second decisions as she maneuvered the ship, drawing on her enhanced empathic abilities to anticipate the enemy's tactics. Nicholas's heart raced as he sensed the strain on the Convergence's systems. He knew Aura was pushing herself and the ship to their limits. A spike of alarm shot through him as he felt her divert power from life support to the shields. "Aura, be careful," he whispered, knowing she couldn't hear him, but feeling the need to voice his concern. Pushing aside his worry, Nicholas focused on his immediate surroundings. He needed to find a way to transmit the data about the heirs of Tain conspiracy. As he emerged from the tunnel system into a less populated area of the city, he spotted a communication terminal. Quickly accessing the system, Nicholas's hopes fell as he encountered layer upon layer of encryption and signal jamming. The conspirators were actively monitoring and blocking the networks. He needed something more powerful, something they couldn't easily shut down or intercept. An idea formed in his mind. The Cardassian Central Command's main communications hub would have the capability he needed. It was risky, but it might be his only chance to expose the conspiracy. As Nicholas formulated his plan, he noticed movement in the shadows. His enhanced senses picked up the distinct pheromone signatures of changed Cardassians. They emerged cautiously, their bodies showing signs of unstable mutations. "We've been watching you," one of them said, his voice a low rasp. "You're like us, but different. We can help you access the Central Command, but we need your protection and a cure for our condition." Nicholas studied them, noting their fear and desperation. "I'll do what I can to help you," he promised. "But first, we need to expose the ones responsible for this." With his new allies, Nicholas made his way toward the imposing Central Command complex. As they moved through the city, he felt Aura's presence in his mind grow stronger. Through their shared consciousness, he experienced flashes of the space battle raging light years away. He sensed Aura's merge with the Convergence, feeling the rush of data and the strain it put on her body. Nicholas's own form continued to evolve in response, his bones becoming more flexible, allowing him to squeeze through tight spaces with ease. As they approached the Central Command complex, Nicholas and his changed Cardassian allies faced a heavily fortified entrance. Elite troops loyal to the heirs of Tain stood guard, their weapons at the ready. Using their combined enhanced abilities, the group managed to create a diversion. While the guards were distracted, Nicholas contorted his body to slip through a narrow maintenance shaft, his new flexibility allowing him to navigate the tight space with surprising speed. Inside the complex, alarms blared as security forces scrambled to respond to the breach. Nicholas raced through the corridors, his body instinctively adapting to blend with his surroundings. He could sense the main communications hub just ahead, guarded by a squad of heavily armed soldiers. As Nicholas prepared to make his move, he felt a surge of shared consciousness with Aura. Their psychic link, amplified by the intense situations they both faced, allowed them to pool their mental resources. With their combined cognitive power, Nicholas found himself processing complex encryption algorithms at an incredible speed. In that moment of clarity, Nicholas sprinted towards the communications hub. The guards opened fire, but his enhanced reflexes allowed him to dodge and weave through the barrage. Reaching the primary transmitter, he connected the data device and began the upload process. As the information about the heirs of Tain conspiracy streamed out to both Earth Alliance and the Cardassian Central Command, Nicholas felt a sense of triumph, but he knew the battle was not nearly finished. Through his link with Aura, he sensed the Convergence executing a desperate warp jump, pushing its systems to the breaking point. As the ship hurtled towards Kardashia Prime, Nicholas braced himself for the coming storm. The political landscape was about to shift dramatically, and he and Aura would be at the center of it all. With the data transmitted and alarms blaring throughout the complex, Nicholas knew he had to move quickly. The full ramifications of what he had just done were yet to unfold, but one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same again. With the data transmitted and alarms blaring throughout the complex, Nicholas knew he had to move quickly. The full ramifications of what he had just done were yet to unfold, but one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same. As Nicholas turned to flee, a violent tremor shook the building. Through his link with Aura, he sensed the Convergence's desperate warp jump, pushing its systems beyond their limits. The ship hurtled towards Kardashia Prime, but something was wrong. Alarms screamed in Aura's mind, echoing through their shared consciousness. Nicholas felt a surge of panic as the Convergence's systems began to fail. He experienced Aura's frantic attempts to stabilize the ship, her mind merging deeper with the vessel's artifact technology. Suddenly, their connection went static, leaving Nicholas with a hollow emptiness in his chest. He had no time to dwell on it. The complex erupted into chaos as loyalist forces converged on his position. Nicholas's changed Cardassian allies rushed to his side, their unstable mutations granting them unpredictable advantages. "We need to get out of here," Nicholas shouted, his voice barely audible over the din of weapons fire and crumbling architecture. They fought their way through corridors filled with acrid smoke, Nicholas's newly flexible bone structure allowing him to contort and dodge incoming fire with inhuman grace. He slipped through a narrow ventilation shaft, his body adapting to the tight space. Emerging on the other side, Nicholas found himself in the midst of a city in turmoil. News of the conspiracy had spread like wildfire, igniting long-simmering tensions between changed and unchanged Cardassians. The streets were alive with clashing factions, some embracing their evolving physiology, while others violently rejected it. Nicholas led his group through the chaos, ducking into alleys and using their enhanced abilities to avoid detection. As they navigated the labyrinthine streets, he caught glimpses of the unfolding civil unrest. Changed Cardassians used their newfound abilities to defend themselves against angry mobs, while others pleaded for acceptance and understanding. The Cardassian Central Command's attempts to maintain order only added to the confusion. Security forces, unsure of who to trust, clashed with both changed and unchanged citizens. The very fabric of Cardassian society seemed to be unraveling before Nicholas's eyes. As they neared the outskirts of the capital, Nicholas felt a familiar warmth in his mind. The psychic link with Aura flickered back to life, but it felt different, strained. Through their connection, he saw flashes of a desolate, cratered landscape. The Convergence had crash-landed on a nearby moon, its hull breached and exposed to a thin, barely breathable atmosphere. Nicholas watched through Aura's eyes as she led the surviving crew out of the damaged ship. Her body had undergone a startling transformation, her skin taking on a metallic sheen, and her protective spikes now pulsing with electronic signals. He felt her purpose as she interfaced directly with the ship's systems, struggling to repair the communication array. The link wavered, and Nicholas found himself back in the chaos of Kardashia Prime. His changed allies looked to him for guidance, their eyes wide with fear and uncertainty. "We need to find shelter," Nicholas said, scanning the area. His gaze fell upon an ancient stone archway, half hidden by debris. "There, the old catacombs. We can regroup underground." They made their way to the entrance, slipping into the cool darkness of the ancient tunnels. As they descended deeper into the catacombs, Nicholas's eyes adapted, allowing him to see in the near-total darkness. The group navigated through twisting passages, the sounds of the surface chaos growing fainter. Suddenly, Nicholas stopped. A faint humming resonated through his changed body, growing stronger as they approached a sealed chamber. His skin tingled with recognition. "There's something here," he whispered, running his hands along the ancient stonework. "Something like the artifacts we encountered before?" With a grinding of stone, a hidden door slid open, revealing a chamber bathed in an eerie, pulsing light. Inside, dormant Xylon technology lined the walls, similar to the artifacts that had started their transformation. As Nicholas stepped into the chamber, the devices began to awaken, responding to his changed physiology. Energy crackled through the air, and he felt a surge of power coursing through his body. His skin rippled, taking on a scale-like texture, while his eyes burned with a newfound intensity. The changed Cardassians gasped as the energy washed over them, accelerating and stabilizing their mutations. Nicholas realized with a mix of awe and trepidation that this activation wasn't limited to their immediate surroundings. He could sense similar devices awakening across Kardashia Prime, their influence spreading like wildfire. As the initial surge of energy subsided, Nicholas became aware of a commotion at the entrance to the catacombs. A group of moderate Cardassian officials, led by a stern-faced man Nicholas recognized as Legate Takani Gemor, cautiously approached. "Nicholas Chen," Gemor called out, his voice echoing through the ancient chambers. "We need to talk. The future of Kardassia hangs in the balance, and you may be the key to preventing a full-scale civil war." Nicholas exchanged glances with his changed allies, weighing their options. As he prepared to respond to Gemor's offer, a searing pain lanced through his mind. Through his link with Aura, he sensed a new threat approaching the moon, where she was stranded. The stakes were rising, and time was running out. Nicholas steeled himself, knowing that the next few moments would be crucial. "We'll hear you out, Legate Gemor," Nicholas said, his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. "But we need to act fast." As they emerged from the catacombs, a violent tremor rocked the ground beneath their feet. Nicholas stumbled, catching himself against the ancient stonework. The air crackled with energy, and he felt a surge of power coursing through his body. "What's happening?" one of his changed allies cried out, panic evident in their voice. Nicholas didn't have time to respond. The ground split open, revealing gleaming metallic structures that rose from the depths. The dormant Xylon technology, awakened by Nicholas's presence, had triggered a massive underground network. Across Kardassia Prime, the landscape transformed as long-buried Xylon structures erupted from the Earth. The emerging structures pulsed with an otherworldly energy, bathing the city in an eerie glow. Nicholas watched in awe as the energy field washed over the panicked crowds. Cardassians dropped to their knees, their bodies contorting as the field accelerated their physiological changes. Millions of voices cried out in a mixture of fear and wonder as they experienced rapid transformations. Some grew protective exoskeletons, while others developed bioluminescent patches on their skin. The civil unrest that had gripped the city moments ago gave way to a stunned silence as people grappled with their evolving bodies. Nicholas felt the energy surge through him, more intense than anything he had experienced before. His skin tingled and began to emit a soft, pulsating light. As he looked down at his hands, he realized he could control the patterns of light dancing across his skin. Instinctively, Nicholas projected a series of soothing, harmonic light patterns. The effect on the crowd was immediate. Panicked cries subsided, replaced by murmurs of awe. People turned to him, their eyes wide with a mixture of fear and hope. Legate Gemor, who had been staring at the unfolding scene in shock, turned to Nicholas. "What are you doing to them?" "I'm not sure," Nicholas replied, his voice filled with wonder. "But I think I can help calm the situation." As Nicholas used his newfound ability to project calming patterns across the city, he felt a familiar presence in his mind. Aura's consciousness brushed against his, and he saw flashes of her piloting the damaged Convergence off the moon's surface. Through their shared link, Nicholas experienced Aura's perseverance as she guided the ship through Cardassian space. He felt her surprise and concern as they encountered a fleet of Earth Alliance vessels led by Admiral Helena Reeves. "Artifact-enhanced vessel, this is Admiral Reeves of the Earth Alliance," a stern voice crackled through the Convergence's communication system. "You are ordered to stand down and surrender immediately." Nicholas sensed Aura's mind merge deeper with the ship's systems. The Convergence executed a series of complex maneuvers, weaving through the Earth Alliance fleet with impossible grace. Aura's enhanced reflexes and the ship's artifact technology worked in perfect harmony, evading capture while staying on course for Kardashia Prime. Back on the planet's surface, Legate Gamora grabbed Nicholas's arm. "We need to establish some sort of control center. The entire planet is in chaos." Nicholas nodded, his eyes scanning the transformed landscape. His gaze settled on a massive Xylon structure that had emerged near the center of the city. "There," he said, pointing. "That structure seems to be coordinating the others." As they made their way through the streets, Nicholas continued to project calming light patterns. The changed Cardassians they encountered joined their group, drawn to Nicholas's presence and the promise of answers. Inside the Xylon structure, they found a vast chamber filled with pulsing lights and holographic displays. Nicholas approached a central console, feeling a pull towards the alien technology. As he reached out to touch it, his nervous system surged with energy. Nicholas gasped as his body underwent another transformation. He felt his consciousness expand, directly interfacing with the Xylon technology. Streams of data flooded his mind, revealing the structure's true nature. "It's a database," Nicholas said, his voice filled with awe. "Genetic information from hundreds of species, including early Cardassians and humans. The Xylons, they've been guiding our evolution for millennia." Legate Gamer's eyes widened. "That's impossible. Our history is incomplete," Nicholas finished. He turned his attention to a flashing alert on one of the displays. "We have another problem. Xanthor's coalition fleet has entered the system. They're facing off against the Earth Alliance and loyal Cardassian ships." Nicholas knew he had to act quickly to prevent a disaster. He reached out with his mind, connecting to the structure's advanced communication array. With a thought, he initiated a planet-wide broadcast. As his message beamed out to the gathered fleets, Nicholas infused it with the genetic information he had discovered. The encoded data triggered subtle changes in those who received it, creating a temporary empathic link between individuals of different species. In orbit, the standoff between the opposing fleets suddenly faltered. Ship captains and crew members found themselves experiencing the perspectives of their supposed enemies. The unexpected connection forced them to confront their shared hopes, fears, and humanity. Taking advantage of the momentary ceasefire, Aura piloted the Convergence through the dense field of ships. Nicholas felt her exhilaration as she pushed the ship to its limits, racing towards Kardashia Prime. As the Convergence entered the planet's atmosphere, its artifact systems interacted with the exposed Xylon technology. A massive energy vortex formed in the upper atmosphere, bathing the planet in swirling, multicolored light. The vortex acted as a catalyst, accelerating the integration of changed individuals with the Xylon technology. Across Kardashia Prime, people found themselves able to interface directly with the ancient structures. Knowledge and technological capabilities flooded their minds, fundamentally altering the balance of power on the planet. In orbit, the energy vortex affected the gathered fleets. Ships experienced sudden power surges as their systems were enhanced by the artifact technology. Confusion reigned among the fleet commanders as they struggled to maintain control of their suddenly upgraded vessels. Nicholas recognized the opportunity presented by the chaos. He turned to Legate Gamora and his changed allies. "We need to get to the central hub. It's coordinating all of these changes. If we can access it, we might be able to stabilize the situation." As they raced through the transformed city toward the largest Xylon structure, Nicholas felt Aura's presence growing stronger. The Convergence was descending rapidly, its systems fully integrated with the planet-wide changes. Nicholas knew that his reunion with Aura would be pivotal. As they approached the central hub, he prepared himself for whatever challenges lay ahead. The fate of multiple species and the balance of power in the galaxy hung in the balance, and Nicholas was at the center of it all. Nicholas stood at the central hub, his mind racing with the implications of their discoveries. Suddenly, a familiar presence brushed against his consciousness. Aura was close. The ground beneath their feet trembled as the Convergence broke through the swirling energy vortex above. Nicholas's skin pulsed with anticipation, bioluminescent patterns dancing across his transformed epidermis. "She's here," he announced, his voice filled with a mixture of relief and excitement. As the Convergence descended, its artifact-enhanced systems interacted with the exposed Xylon structures. The air crackled with energy, and a blinding flash erupted from the ship's hull. An electromagnetic pulse radiated outward, washing over the planet and the orbiting fleets. In an instant, every non-Xylon system on Kardashia Prime and in orbit went dark. The gathered fleets, moments ago poised for conflict, now drifted powerless in space. On the ground, the once chaotic city fell eerily silent as all modern technology failed. Nicholas felt the pulse through his connection to the Xylon network. He turned to Legate Gaimor, whose comm device had gone silent. "We need to move quickly. This blackout won't last forever." Leading his team out of the structure, Nicholas watched as the Convergence gracefully touched down nearby. The ship's sleek hull gleamed with an otherworldly light, pulsing in harmony with the surrounding Xylon architecture. The ship's hatch opened and Aura emerged. Nicholas's breath caught in his throat as he saw her transformed appearance. Her body was adorned with protective spikes that seemed to shimmer and shift, emitting a low-level energy field that resonated with the nearby Xylon structures. As Aura approached, Nicholas felt an overwhelming urge to close the distance between them. They moved towards each other, drawn by an invisible force that seemed to hum in the air around them. The moment they touched, a surge of energy coursed through their bodies. Nicholas gasped as he felt his skin adapting, matching the texture of Aura's transformed epidermis. Aura's protective spikes softened and retracted, her body responding to Nicholas's presence. Their reunion triggered an unexpected reaction in the surrounding Xylon technology. The ground shook violently as massive machinery beneath the surface roared to life. The gathered Cardassians, both changed and unchanged, watched in awe as new structures erupted from the earth. "Nicholas," Aura breathed, her voice filled with emotion. "The things I've seen, the knowledge I've gained." Before Nicholas could respond, a section of the ground nearby split open, revealing a hidden chamber. Sensing its importance, Nicholas nodded to Aura. "We need to investigate." They descended into the newly exposed room, followed closely by their allies. As they entered, holographic interfaces sprang to life, responding to their presence. A three-dimensional star map of the galaxy materialized before them, filling the chamber with points of light. Nicholas and Aura approached the map, their enhanced physiologies allowing them to process the vast amount of information presented. Hundreds of worlds across the galaxy were highlighted, each indicating the presence of Xylon artifacts. "It's not just Kardashia," Nicholas murmured, his eyes wide. "This is happening everywhere." As they studied the map, the full scope of the Xylon plan began to unfold. The artifacts had been strategically placed across the galaxy, designed to activate in stages and guide the evolution of various species. Kardashia Prime's transformation was a crucial nexus point in this grand design. Outside the chamber, the effects of the electromagnetic pulse began to wane. Communication systems crackled back to life, filling the air with a cacophony of confused voices from the planet's surface and the orbiting fleets. Legate Gaimor's voice cut through the chaos as he delivered a planet-wide address, calling for calm and unity in the face of unprecedented change. His words, combined with the visible transformation of Cardassian society, helped to quell the remaining pockets of unrest. In orbit, Admiral Helena Reeves of the Earth Alliance initiated contact with Xanthor's coalition fleet. The shared experience of the earlier empathic link created by Nicholas's broadcast paved the way for cautious diplomacy. Both sides agreed to a temporary non-aggression pact while they assessed the evolving situation on Kardashia Prime. On the planet's surface, changed Cardassians began to organize themselves around the exposed Xylon structures. Small communities formed, exploring their new abilities and interfacing with the ancient technology. Nicholas and Aura exchanged a meaningful look, recognizing the potential for conflict between changed and unchanged populations. "We need to act fast," Nicholas said, "before the situation spirals out of control." Together, they formulated a proposal for a transitional government, one that would include representatives from both changed and unchanged Cardassians, as well as advisors from the Earth Alliance and Xanthor's coalition. The idea quickly gained traction among moderate factions, offering a path toward stability. As reports began to flood in from across the quadrant of increased Xylon activity on other worlds, Nicholas and Aura realized that the process of guided evolution was accelerating on a galactic scale. The implications were staggering. Standing before the holographic star map, Nicholas turned to Aura, their hands intertwined. "We need to address everyone," he said. "The Cardassians, the Earth Alliance, Xanthor's coalition. They all need to understand what's happening." Aura nodded, her eyes shimmering with commitment. "Together," she said softly. As they made their way out of the chamber to address the gathered assembly, Nicholas felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. The knowledge they carried had the power to reshape the future of not just Cardassia Prime, but the entire galaxy. The chamber behind them hummed with ancient power, the star map continuing to pulse with the promise of a new era. As Nicholas and Aura emerged into the transformed landscape of Cardassia Prime, they knew that their journey was just the beginning. The true challenge of integrating this ancient legacy into the complex web of galactic society was just beginning. The true challenge of integrating this ancient legacy into the complex web of galactic society was just beginning to unfold. As Nicholas and Aura stepped out to address the gathered assembly, a violent tremor shook the Xylon structure. They stumbled, catching each other for support as the ground beneath them quaked. Behind them, the chamber they had just exited erupted with light. "Nicholas, look!" Aura pointed back at the holographic star map, which now pulsed with new data streams. They rushed back inside, followed by Legate Gemor and Admiral Reeves. The map had expanded, revealing a complex network of interconnected lines linking the Xylon-affected worlds. "Are those wormholes?" Admiral Reeves asked, her voice hushed with awe. Nicholas nodded, his bioluminescent skin patterns shifting rapidly as he processed the information. "Yes, and they're about to activate. This changes everything." The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembled representatives. Admiral Reeves immediately tapped her communicator, issuing rapid-fire orders to the Earth Alliance fleet. "All ships, defensive positions around Cardassia Prime. Now!" As the Earth Alliance vessels moved to secure the planet, Xanthor's coalition fleet responded in kind, positioning themselves to intercept. The space above Cardassia Prime became a chessboard of opposing forces, each side wary of making the first move. On the planet's surface, the exposed Xylon structures began to emit a low, thrumming pulse. Nicholas felt it resonate through his body, setting his nerves alight. Around him, both changed and unchanged individuals started to react to the pulse. An unchanged Cardassian scientist nearby gasped, his eyes widening as his skin began to ripple and change. "What's happening to me?" he cried out, watching in shock as bioluminescent patterns formed on his arms. Similar scenes played out across the planet as the pulse accelerated the evolution process. Unchanged humans and Cardassians found themselves rapidly adapting, their bodies transforming to interface with the Xylon technology. Nicholas and Aura, already deeply connected to the Xylon artifacts, experienced a surge in their abilities. Nicholas's skin patterns became more intricate, swirling and coalescing into three-dimensional projections that hovered in the air around him. Aura's protective spikes extended and retracted in complex geometric formations, interfacing with nearby Xylon consoles. "We need to stabilize this," Nicholas said, his voice strained as he fought to control his expanding senses. "The changes are happening too fast." Aura nodded, her spikes creating a dazzling light show as they interacted with the Xylon interfaces. "The central hub, we can use it to slow the process." As they made their way to the hub, reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Similar transformations were occurring on other worlds with dormant Xylon artifacts. Species of all kinds were experiencing rapid, unpredictable evolution. Legate Gemor's voice cut through the chaos, declaring a state of emergency on Cardassia Prime. "All defense forces, secure the Xylon structures immediately. We cannot allow them to fall into enemy hands." No sooner had the order been given than reports of skirmishes erupted across the planet. The heirs of Tain, their conspiracy now fully exposed, launched coordinated attacks on key Xylon sites. Nicholas and Aura reached the central hub, their bodies humming with energy. They placed their hands on the ancient machinery, feeling the artifact's consciousness merge with their own. "We can slow it down," Nicholas said, his voice echoing with an otherworldly resonance. "But we'll have to physically connect with the system." Without hesitation, they stepped forward, allowing the Xylon technology to envelop them. Their bodies seemed to phase in and out of reality as they became one with the ancient machinery. Through their merged consciousness, they implemented a temporary stabilization protocol. The pace of evolution across the planet slowed, giving the population a chance to adjust to their new reality. But their reprieve was short-lived. In orbit, massive energy vortexes began to form, marking the activation of the wormhole network. The swirling anomalies exerted a powerful gravitational pull on the gathered fleets. Admiral Reeves's voice crackled over the comm systems, filled with urgency. "All ships, fall back. Repeat, fall back to safe distance." Despite her orders, several Earth Alliance vessels were caught in the event horizons of the forming wormholes. In a flash of blinding light, they vanished, transported to distant Xylon-affected worlds. The activation of the wormhole network sent a power surge through the Xylon structures on Kardashia Prime. Nicholas and Aura felt the surge tear through their merged forms, overloading their stabilization measures. "We're losing control," Aura cried out, her voice distorted by the Xylon interface. The evolutionary process accelerated once again, causing rapid and unpredictable changes in the population. Cardassians and humans alike cried out as their bodies transformed, some growing extra limbs, others developing new sensory organs. In orbit, Xanthor made a bold decision. His flagship broke formation, diving towards one of the newly formed wormholes. In a burst of energy, the massive vessel disappeared, leaving the coalition fleet without its leader. As chaos consumed Kardashia Prime and its surrounding space, Nicholas and Aura made a startling discovery within the Xylon data streams. The artifacts weren't just guiding evolution. They were preparing for something more. "The Xylons," Nicholas whispered, his voice filled with a mixture of awe and fear. "They're coming back." Before they could process this revelation, new alerts flashed across their shared consciousness. Massive fleets from the Romulan and Klingon empires had entered the sector, each racing to claim the Xylon technology for themselves. Kardashia Prime now stood at the center of a galactic storm. Its population evolved at a breakneck pace. Wormholes connected distant worlds, and multiple fleets converged on the system. The heirs of Tain fought street by street to seize control of the Xylon structures, while Nicholas and Aura, their bodies and minds expanded beyond human limits, grappled with the impending return of an ancient race. As the situation spiraled further out of control, Nicholas and Aura knew they had to act. But trapped within the Xylon hub, their bodies merged with alien technology, they faced an unprecedented challenge. The fate of not just Kardashia Prime, but the entire galaxy hung in the balance. Balance. As the situation spiraled further out of control, Nicholas and Aura knew they had to act. But trapped within the Xylon hub, their bodies merged with alien technology, they faced an unprecedented challenge. Through their shared consciousness, they perceived the chaos engulfing Kardashia Prime. The rapid, uncontrolled evolution threatened to tear apart the fabric of society. With a shared thought, they made a critical decision. "We need to guide this process," Nicholas's voice echoed in their merged minds, "or everything will fall apart." Aura's consciousness pulsed in agreement. Together, they initiated a controlled release of evolutionary energy, channeling it through the Xylon network that spanned the planet. The effect was immediate. Across Kardashia Prime, the frantic pace of transformation slowed. Changed individuals felt a sudden clarity, their new abilities stabilizing. Even those who had remained unchanged felt the shift, their bodies adapting more gradually to the alien influence. As they directed the flow of energy, Nicholas and Aura experienced an unexpected change. Their physical forms, already merged with the Xylon hub, began to blend further. Nicholas's bioluminescent patterns merged with Aura's protective spikes, creating a hybrid form that embodied both human and Cardassian traits. Their new body pulsed with energy, fully integrated with the Xylon systems. Through this enhanced connection, they gained unprecedented access to the ancient technology. In orbit, the situation grew more complex. The newly formed wormholes exerted their gravitational pull on the gathered fleets. Several Earth Alliance ships caught in the vortexes vanished in flashes of light. Admiral Reeves's voice crackled over the comm systems. Sierra 7, report status. The captain of one of the displaced vessels responded, his voice filled with awe. Admiral, we've emerged in an unknown system. There's a planet here. It's teeming with life, but like nothing we've ever seen before. Reeves processed the information quickly. Initiate first contact protocols. Be cautious, but gather as much data as you can. On the surface of Kardashia Prime, the battle for control of the Xylon structures intensified. The heirs of Tain, their conspiracy fully exposed, launched coordinated attacks across major cities. Legate Gemor's voice boomed over emergency channels. All loyal forces, defend the artifacts at all costs. Change Cardassians, their bodies enhanced by the Xylon influence, engage the attackers. Streets became battlegrounds as both sides utilized their newfound abilities. Beams of energy arced between buildings, while others displayed superhuman strength and agility. In the skies above, the situation deteriorated further. Romulan warbirds decloaked around the planet's orbit, their disruptors charging. Klingon battlecruisers followed, their war cries echoing through space. Commander Taven of the Romulan fleet transmitted a message to all ships. The Xylon technology belongs to the Empire. Stand down or be destroyed. General Koth's guttural laugh filled the comm channels. The Klingon Empire claims this prize, for the glory of Kahless. Amidst the chaos, a familiar energy signature appeared. Xanthor's massive vessel re-emerged from a wormhole, its hull crackling with residual energy. Inside the Xylon hub, Nicholas and Aura processed the flood of information through their enhanced senses. They felt the battles raging across the planet, the tensions in orbit, and the awakening of Xylon structures on distant worlds. We need to act now, their merged voice echoed in the chamber, before it's too late. They focused their combined will, tapping into the full power of the Xylon network. A wave of energy pulsed outward, enveloping Kardashia Prime in a shimmering field. Changed individuals across the planet felt a sudden surge of power, their abilities magnified, allowing them to more effectively combat the heirs of Tain forces. In the capital city, a group of changed Cardassians, their skin glowing with bioluminescent patterns, repelled a Tain assault on a major Xylon structure. They moved with impossible speed, their enhanced strength allowing them to overpower the attackers. The signal reached orbit, interfacing with the Earth Alliance ships. Admiral Reeves watched in amazement as her vessel's systems suddenly came alive with Xylon energy. All ships, she commanded, her voice steady despite the extraordinary circumstances. Initiate Protocol Omega. The Earth Alliance fleet moved in perfect synchronization, their Xylon-enhanced systems creating a massive subspace distortion around Kardashia Prime. The Romulan vessels flickered into view as their cloaking devices failed, while the Klingon ships were forced to retreat to avoid the disruptive field. On the planet's surface, the distortion had an unexpected effect. The Xylon structures began to resonate, their energy synchronizing with the subspace field. Massive machinery emerged from beneath the ground, ancient terraforming systems awakening after eons of dormancy. Inside the hub, Nicholas and Aura made a chilling discovery. The Xylon artifacts weren't just guiding evolution or preparing for their creator's return. They were transforming entire planets into living supercomputers, capable of hosting Xylon consciousness on a planetary scale. As Kardashia Prime shuddered under the force of the emerging Xylon machines, Legate Gemor made a fateful decision. Initiate Protocol Omega Red, he ordered, his voice heavy with the weight of his choice. Across the planet, Cardassian scientists worked alongside changed individuals, modifying the planetary defense grid. They created a counter-frequency, fighting against the Xylon terraforming process in a desperate bid to preserve their world. The conflict reached a critical point as the heirs of Tain, driven to desperation, launched a final, reckless assault on the main Xylon hub. Their goal to overload the system and destroy the alien influence, regardless of the cost. Nicholas and Aura, their hybrid form now fully integrated with the Xylon systems, sensed the impending attack. They knew that if the hub were to overload, it could trigger a chain reaction through the wormhole network, affecting countless worlds across the galaxy. As the heirs of Tain forces breached the outer defenses of the hub, Nicholas and Aura prepared for the fight of their lives. They would have to battle on two fronts, in the physical world against the attackers, and in the virtual realm of the Xylon network to prevent a catastrophic overload. The fate of not just Kardashia Prime, but potentially the entire galaxy, now rested in their hands. As alarms blared and energy levels spiked dangerously, Nicholas and Aura steeled themselves for the challenge ahead. As alarms blared and energy levels spiked dangerously, Nicholas and Aura's hybrid form pulsed with grit. Their merged consciousness, fully integrated with the Xylon systems, scanned the incoming data streams for a solution. Suddenly, they detected a critical weakness in the heirs of Tain's attempt to overload the system. There, their unified voice echoed through the hub. We can use their own attack against them. With lightning-fast precision, they initiated a cascading shutdown of the overloading nodes. The hub's energy levels began to stabilize, the dangerous peaks flattening into manageable waves. The immediate threat of a galactic catastrophe dissipated, replaced by an eerie calm. But their victory was short-lived. The stabilization triggered a dormant protocol within the Xylon artifacts. A low hum filled the air, growing in intensity until it became a deafening roar. Something's happening. Nicholas's thoughts reverberated through their shared mind. Aura's consciousness pulsed with concern. We need to... Before she could finish, a blinding pulse of energy erupted from the hub. It swept across Kardashia Prime in an instant, then shot through the wormhole network, disappearing into the depths of space. On the planet's surface, the ongoing battles came to an abrupt halt. Cardassian loyalists and heirs of Tain operatives alike cried out as their bodies underwent rapid changes. A Cardassian soldier, mid-attack, stumbled as his skin hardened into a chitinous armor. His opponent, a Tain operative, gasped as her eyes multiplied, granting her an impossible field of vision. In orbit, the energy pulse slammed into the gathered fleets. Ships listed and spun as their systems failed, forcing crews to initiate emergency shutdowns to prevent further damage. Admiral Reeves gripped her command chair as her flagship shuddered. Status report. All systems are offline, Admiral, her chief engineer reported. We're running on emergency power only. As the chaos subsided, Nicholas and Aura felt their hybrid form begin to separate. Their individual consciousnesses re-emerged, distinct yet forever changed. Nicholas blinked, his vision clearing to reveal that his skin now bore intricate, Cardassian-like patterns. Beside him, Aura flexed her protective spikes, finding them more flexible and sensitive than before. Their eyes met, a wordless understanding passing between them. Their physical transformation had solidified their bond, creating a tangible representation of their relationship. A transmission crackled through the hub's speakers. It was Legate Gemor, his voice strained but resolute. This is Legate Gemor to all Cardassian forces. I am calling for an immediate ceasefire. We must address the unprecedented changes facing our society. I propose a temporary unity government to navigate this crisis. Nicholas and Aura exchanged glances. We should go to him, Aura said. Our experience with the Xylon systems could be crucial. As they made their way through the city, they saw the full extent of the transformation. Changed individuals filled the streets, some marveling at their new abilities, others recoiling in shock. The heirs of Tain, their conspiracy in shambles, had no choice but to agree to negotiations. In orbit, Admiral Reeves' flagship was the first to regain power. She wasted no time in opening communications with the Romulan and Klingon fleets. This is Admiral Reeves of the Earth Alliance, she broadcast. I propose a temporary alliance to study the effects of the Xylon pulse and its implications for our societies. On the display, Commander Taven appeared, her typically stoic Romulan features now accented by iridescent scales. Beside her, General Koth's Klingon visage sported bioluminescent ridges. The Romulan Empire cautiously agrees to your proposal, Taven said, her voice carrying a new harmonious undertone. Koth nodded gruffly. The Klingon Empire will join this alliance for now. These changes demand investigation. On the planet's surface, the modified Cardassian defense grid hummed to life. Change individuals across Cardassia Prime focused their newfound abilities, channeling energy into the grid. A shimmering field enveloped the planet, halting the Xylon terraforming machines in their tracks. As the immediate crises stabilized, a familiar energy signature appeared in orbit. Xanthor's massive vessel emerged from a wormhole, its hull crackling with residual energy. The being that transported to the surface barely resembled the Xanthor they knew. His body shimmered like pure energy given form. The wormhole network is contracting, Xanthor announced, his voice resonating on multiple frequencies. The Xylons are coming. Nicholas and Aura shared a look of grit. We might be able to interface with the incoming Xylon consciousness, Nicholas said. Aura nodded. Our hybrid physiology could be the key to establishing first contact. As they began to formulate their plan, a low rumble shook the ground. All eyes turned to the sky, where Cardassia Prime's moon glowed with an otherworldly light. Cracks spread across its surface, revealing a massive structure that dwarfed anything they had encountered before. The lunar artifact powered up, emitting a signal that resonated with every changed individual in the system. Nicholas and Aura felt it in their very cells, a call they couldn't ignore. We need to investigate that artifact, Aura said, her voice filled with urgency. Nicholas nodded. It might be our best chance to establish a controlled connection with the returning Xylons. Within hours, a joint team was assembled. Changed humans, Cardassians, and representatives from other species boarded a specially modified shuttle. As they approached the lunar surface, the artifact's signal intensified. Team members gasped and shuddered as their bodies underwent further changes. Nicholas gripped Aura's hand as the shuttle touched down near the massive structure. The lunar landscape stretched out before them, forever altered by the emergence of the Xylon artifact. As they stepped onto the surface, the signal pulsed through their bodies, awakening abilities they had yet to discover. Whatever happens, Nicholas said, looking into Aura's eyes, we face it together. Aura nodded, her protective spikes flexing with anticipation. Together. As the team approached the towering artifact, its surface began to shift and reconfigure. An opening appeared, beckoning them into the unknown depths of the structure. With each step, they moved closer to a confrontation that would determine the fate of multiple civilizations and the future of galactic evolution. The artifact loomed before them, its secrets waiting to be uncovered. Nicholas and Aura led the way, their hybrid forms resonating with the Xylon energy that permeated the air. As they crossed the threshold into the structure, they knew that their greatest challenge, and perhaps their greatest opportunity, lay just ahead. As they crossed the threshold into the structure, they knew that their greatest challenge, and perhaps their greatest opportunity, lay just beyond. The team had barely taken a few steps into the artifact when their shuttle systems began to flicker and fail. Power levels fluctuated wildly, causing the craft's lights to dim and brighten in an erratic dance. Nicholas felt a tingling sensation spread across his skin, watching in fascination as the Cardassian-like patterns on his flesh became more pronounced, the ridges and scales taking on a deeper, more textured appearance. Beside him, Aura gasped, her protective spikes rippling and flexing with newfound flexibility. "Nicholas," she whispered, her voice a mix of awe and concern. "The changes are accelerating." Before he could respond, a wave of energy pulsed through the artifact, washing over the team. Each member shuddered as their bodies underwent further transformations. A human scientist's eyes shifted, developing multifaceted surfaces that gleamed in the artifact's ethereal light. A Cardassian engineer's skin hardened, taking on a glossy, chitinous sheen. As they ventured deeper into the structure, a vast, glowing energy field materialized before them, surrounding what appeared to be the artifact's core. The field pulsed and shifted, creating intricate, ever-changing patterns that seemed to dance in the air. Nicholas and Aura exchanged a glance, their hybrid physiology resonating with the Xylon energy that permeated the chamber. As they approached the field, the patterns began to coalesce, forming shapes and symbols that flickered at the edge of comprehension. "It's communicating," Aura breathed, her enhanced senses picking up subtle variations in the field's energy output. Nicholas nodded, his mind racing to process the information. I can almost understand it." Together they stepped forward, their hybrid forms acting as a bridge between the team and the alien technology. As they made contact with the energy field, a surge of data flooded their senses. The artifact responded to their touch, massive sections beginning to shift and realign with a low, rumbling groan. The team watched in awe as the structure reconfigured itself, revealing a hidden chamber at its core. As the last pieces settled into place, a holographic projection flickered to life in the center of the room. The image coalesced into a being of pure energy, its form vaguely humanoid but constantly shifting and flowing. Nicholas and Aura approached the hologram, their hybrid physiology allowing them to interface with the projection. As they made contact, a torrent of information cascaded through their minds. Images, sensations, and concepts beyond human comprehension flooded their consciousness. "It's too much," Nicholas gasped, his knees buckling under the strain. Aura reached for him, her own vision blurring. "We need to... Their words trailed off as they collapsed, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of data pouring into their minds. As Nicholas and Aura lay unconscious, the rest of the team sprang into action, rushing to their aid. But before they could reach the fallen pair, the artifact emitted a low, pulsing hum. The floor beneath their feet began to vibrate, and through the chamber's viewing ports, they could see debris from the lunar surface being pulled toward the structure. "The gravitational field is intensifying," one of the scientists called out, her voice tight with urgency. "If this continues, it could destabilize the moon's orbit." In orbit above Kardashia Prime, Admiral Reeves watched the unfolding situation with growing concern. The moon's erratic movement was already causing ripples of panic among the gathered fleets. "This is Admiral Reeves to all ships," she broadcast, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Initiate emergency evacuation protocols. All non-essential personnel are to depart the Cardassian system immediately." As ships began to move into position, Reeves opened a channel to the planet's surface. "Legate Gamor, we're detecting severe gravitational anomalies from the lunar artifact. You need to prepare for potential impacts." On the moon's surface, Nicholas and Aura stirred, their minds reeling from the influx of Xylon knowledge. As they regained consciousness, they found themselves filled with a newfound understanding of the Xylon's grand plan for galactic evolution. "The network," Nicholas mumbled, struggling to his feet. "They want to create a network of evolved beings across the galaxy." Aura nodded, her eyes wide with comprehension. "And we're the key to making it happen." As the realization sank in, the urgency of their situation became clear. The lunar artifact's gravitational pull was growing stronger by the second, threatening not only the moon's stability, but the safety of Kardashia Prime itself. "We need to stabilize the artifact," Aura said, her voice filled with persistence. Nicholas nodded, already moving towards the artifact's core. "If we can interface with its systems, we might be able to redirect the gravitational anomalies." As they worked to control the artifact's power, the wormhole network surrounding Kardashia Prime began to pulse with energy. On the planet's surface, Xanthor's form shimmered as he detected the change. "The network is activating," he announced, his voice carrying across multiple frequencies. "The Xylon's return is imminent." In orbit, the Romulan and Klingon fleets moved into defensive positions, their partially restored ships forming a protective ring around the Cardassian system. Commander Taven and General Koth, their bodies still adapting to their recent transformations, prepared their forces for the unknown. On Kardashia Prime, former enemies put aside their differences in the face of this new threat. Changed Cardassians worked alongside heirs of Tain operatives, fortifying key Xylon structures under Legate Gamor's guidance. Back in the lunar artifact, Nicholas and Aura had managed to establish a tenuous connection with the core systems. Their hybrid physiology allowed them to interface directly with the Xylon technology, giving them unprecedented control over the structure's functions. "I think I've got it," Nicholas called out, his hands moving across an invisible interface. "Redirecting the gravitational anomalies now." As they worked, the artifact began to draw energy from the surrounding space. Ships in orbit reported power fluctuations, and on Kardashia Prime, Xylon structures pulsed with an otherworldly light as their energy was siphoned away. The central chamber of the lunar artifact began to transform, the walls seeming to melt and reform. A swirling vortex of pure Xylon energy coalesced in the center of the room, its surface rippling with patterns of light and shadow. Nicholas and Aura stood before the vortex, their bodies now so integrated with the artifact's systems that it was hard to tell where they ended and the technology began. They understood with a clarity that transcended words that this gateway was the key to controlling the Xylon's return. "We have to go through," Aura said, her voice barely audible over the hum of energy. Nicholas nodded, reaching out to take her hand. Together. As they stepped towards the swirling energy, their physical forms began to blur and shift. The boundaries between flesh and technology, between individual and collective, started to dissolve. With each step, they moved closer to a state of being beyond anything their former selves could have imagined. The fate of galaxies hung in the balance as Nicholas and Aura, no longer entirely human or Cardassian, merged with the very essence of Xylon technology. As their consciousness expanded, encompassing vast networks of information and energy, they prepared to face the returning Xylons not as supplicants or adversaries, but as equals. The vortex engulfed them, their physical forms dissipating into streams of pure energy. In that moment of transformation, as they teetered on the brink of a new existence, Nicholas and Aura faced the ultimate test of their bond and their newfound abilities. The future of countless civilizations now rested in their hands as they plunged into the unknown depths of Xylon space. As Nicholas and Aura plunged into the swirling vortex, their physical forms began to dissolve. The boundaries between flesh and energy blurred, their consciousnesses expanding beyond the confines of their bodies. The lunar artifact pulsed with power, its energy field intensifying until it engulfed the entire structure. From Kardashia Prime and the orbiting fleets, observers watched in awe as a brilliant display of light erupted from the moon's surface. The energy bubble grew rapidly, enveloping the lunar body in a shimmering cocoon of Xylon technology. Inside the bubble, Nicholas and Aura found themselves suspended in a sea of pure information, their merged essence interfaced directly with the Xylon systems, granting them unprecedented access to the ancient technology's core functions. As they explored this vast network, they discovered something extraordinary, a scattered web of dormant Xylon consciousness, spread throughout the galaxy, waiting to be reawakened. On Kardashia Prime, the effects of the lunar artifact's power drain were immediate and severe. Cities plunged into darkness as power grids failed across the planet. Legate Gamora's voice crackled over emergency communication channels, coordinating with changed Cardassians to maintain essential services. "Use your abilities to keep life support systems online," Gamer ordered, his voice strained but steady. "Prioritize medical facilities and evacuation centers." As changed Cardassians worked to stabilize the situation, the heirs of Tain saw an opportunity in the chaos. They launched a coordinated assault on key government facilities, hoping to seize control in the confusion. However, loyalist forces, bolstered by their enhanced abilities, met the attackers head-on. In the heart of the capital, a group of heirs operatives found themselves face-to-face with a contingent of changed Cardassian security forces. Energy beams clashed with newly developed organic weaponry as the two sides engaged in a fierce battle for control of the central communications hub. Meanwhile, in orbit, Admiral Reeves' flagship rocked as its sensors detected a massive energy surge building within the lunar artifact. Reeves gripped her command chair, her eyes widening as she processed the readings. "All ships, fall back immediately," she ordered, her voice cutting through the chaos on the bridge. "Maintain a safe distance from the moon. We don't know what we're dealing with here." The Romulan and Klingon fleets hesitated, their commanders struggling with their own physiological changes. Commander Taven's normally stoic features contorted as she fought to control her ship's unfamiliar systems with her altered body. "Comply with the Admiral's order," Taven finally commanded, her voice rasping through her communications array. "We cannot risk our fleets in the face of this unknown phenomenon." As the ships retreated to a safer distance, Xanthor's energy form pulsed in sync with the lunar artifact. He reached out with his consciousness, establishing a tenuous link with Nicholas and Aura's merged essence. Through this connection, information flowed like a torrent, revealing the impending reactivation of the Xylon network and its potential consequences for all changed species in the galaxy. Xanthor's form flickered as he processed this information. He quickly relayed his findings to Admiral Reeves and Legate Gamor, his voice reverberating across multiple frequencies. "The Xylon network is awakening," he announced, his tone urgent. "We must prepare for a transformation on a galactic scale." Before anyone could fully comprehend this warning, the wormhole network surrounding Kardashia Prime suddenly flared to life. Portals opened throughout the system, connecting to distant Xylon-affected worlds. Streams of energy poured through these gateways, carrying the evolved consciousness of countless changed individuals across the galaxy. Nicholas and Aura, their merged essence now spread throughout the Xylon network, found themselves at the center of this galactic convergence. They worked frantically to guide and stabilize the flow of consciousness, preventing the complete subsumption of individual identities into the Xylon collective. "We can't let them be overwhelmed," Nicholas's thoughts echoed through their shared consciousness. Aura's response came as a surge of dedication. "We need to maintain the balance. Too much integration, and we'll lose ourselves entirely." Their efforts strained their bond to its limits, threatening to tear their merged form apart. As they struggled to maintain control, the very fabric of space-time around Kardashia Prime began to warp and shift. On the planet's surface, changed individuals experienced a sudden, overwhelming connection to the Xylon network. Many found themselves involuntarily levitating, their bodies emitting a soft glow as they attuned to the galactic convergence. In a crowded market square, a changed Cardassian merchant gasped as his feet left the ground. Around him, others rose into the air, their eyes wide with a mixture of fear and wonder. Unchanged Cardassians looked on in awe and terror as their changed counterparts underwent this mysterious transformation. Admiral Reeves watched the phenomenon unfold from her flagship, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Science team, I need an analysis of these energy patterns now," she demanded. The response came quickly, but it did little to ease her concerns. "Admiral, the convergence is altering the very nature of space-time in this region. The boundary between normal space and subspace is becoming unstable." As if to confirm this assessment, the ship's sensors began to malfunction, and navigation systems failed across the fleet. The lunar artifact, now a nexus of unimaginable power, began to reshape itself. Massive sections reconfigured, forming a colossal transmission array aimed at the heart of the galaxy. Energy beams shot out from this array, connecting with similar structures on other Xylon-affected worlds. The result was a breathtaking display of force, with brilliant lines of energy crisscrossing the vastness of space. Nicholas and Aura, their consciousness stretched to its limits across the Xylon network, made a startling discovery. The Xylons were not returning as a separate species, but were instead using the changed individuals as vessels for their reincarnation. "This isn't symbiosis," Nicholas realized, his thoughts racing. "It's assimilation." Aura's response was tinged with urgency. "We need to intervene. If we don't, every changed being in the galaxy will lose their original identity." Together, they began to modify the Xylon reincarnation process, attempting to create a true symbiosis between the ancient consciousness and the changed species. Their efforts caused visible fluctuations in the energy field surrounding the moon, the lunar artifact structure becoming increasingly unstable. As sections of the artifact phased in and out of normal space, the entire Cardassian system teetered on the brink of catastrophe. Legate Gamor, recognizing the imminent danger, made a difficult decision. "Initiate planet-wide evacuation," he ordered, his voice echoing through every functioning communication device on Kardashia Prime. All citizens are to report to designated shelters immediately. The evacuation efforts began in earnest, but they were hampered by the increasingly erratic behavior of changed individuals. Many felt an irresistible pull towards the Convergence, refusing to seek shelter. As the Galactic Convergence reached its critical phase, Nicholas and Aura's merged consciousness struggled to maintain control. The fate of countless changed species hung in the balance, with the lunar artifact's instability threatening to trigger a chain reaction that could reshape the galaxy forever. In the heart of the energy vortex, Nicholas and Aura fought to preserve the individuality of every changed being while harnessing the power of the Xylon consciousness. The outcome of their struggle would determine the future of human-alien relations and the very nature of consciousness itself. As Nicholas and Aura's merged consciousness grappled with the complexities of the Xylon network, the lunar artifact's instability reached a critical point. Massive chunks of the structure began to break away, creating a dangerous debris field that threatened both the orbiting fleets and Kardashia Prime itself. Admiral Reeves' voice cut through the chaos on her flagship's bridge. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Prioritize intercepting the largest debris chunks. The Romulan and Klingon vessels, their systems still reeling from the earlier energy pulse, struggled to comply. Commander Taven's fingers danced across her console, fighting against her ship's sluggish response times. Shields at 60%, she reported, her voice strained. Maneuvering thrusters operating at reduced capacity. On Kardashia Prime, Legate Gemmor watched the unfolding disaster with growing alarm. The planet-wide evacuation was in full swing, but the erratic behavior of changed individuals hampered their efforts. Many refused to seek shelter, drawn to the surface by an inexplicable compulsion to participate in the Convergence. Gemmor's eyes narrowed as he made a swift decision. Activate the planetary defense grid, he ordered, his voice firm. Deep beneath the planet's surface, ancient machinery hummed to life. Weapons platforms, long dormant, rose from hidden bunkers. Their energy signatures pulsed in harmony with the Xylon technology spread across Kardashia Prime, creating an unexpected synergy. As the defense platforms engaged, targeting the incoming lunar debris, their energy output interacted with the Xylon structures. A high-frequency signal emanated from the exposed Xylon architecture, resonating with the changing physiology of the transformed individuals. In a crowded evacuation center, a changed Cardassian named Elam suddenly felt a wave of clarity wash over him. The chaotic thoughts and impulses that had been driving him subsided, replaced by a newfound sense of control. He looked around, noticing similar reactions in other changed individuals. I can think clearly again, Elam said, his voice filled with wonder. He raised his hand, watching as it glowed with a soft, controlled light. And I can control it now. Similar scenes played out across the planet as the stabilizing effect spread. The erratic behavior of transformed individuals began to subside, allowing for a more orderly evacuation process. In orbit, Xanthor's energy form pulsed rhythmically as he detected a pattern within the chaotic fluctuations. He quickly relayed his findings to Admiral Reeves. The merged consciousness is creating a template, Xanthor explained, his voice resonating across multiple frequencies. A hybrid state combining evolved forms with Xylon awareness. Admiral Reeves leaned forward, her eyes fixed on the data scrolling across her screen. Science team, analyze these energy patterns. We need to understand the implications of this hybrid template. As the science team worked, Nicholas and Aura's merged consciousness strained against the overwhelming influx of information and energy. Their efforts to modify the Xylon reincarnation process caused visible fluctuations in the energy field surrounding the moon. Suddenly, they achieved a breakthrough. A stable interface formed between the evolved consciousness of changed individuals and the ancient Xylon awareness. This interface manifested as a visible energy matrix, spreading out from the lunar artifact and enveloping Kardashia Prime in a shimmering field. On the planet's surface, changed Cardassians experienced a moment of profound clarity. The energy matrix settled around them like a second skin, granting them conscious control over their new abilities and a deeper understanding of the Xylon technology. Elam, now fully in control of his enhanced strength, rushed to help a group of unchanged Cardassians trapped beneath fallen debris. With ease, he lifted a massive beam, allowing the survivors to scramble to safety. "Thank you," one of the rescued Cardassians said, looking at Elam with a mixture of awe and lingering fear. Elam nodded, a small smile on his face. "We're all in this together now." Similar scenes of cooperation between changed and unchanged Cardassians unfolded across the planet, marking a turning point in the crisis response. In orbit, Admiral Reeves' flagship rocked as a new energy signature erupted from the lunar artifact. A concentrated beam of Xylon energy shot out from the moon, targeting a specific point in deep space. "Track that beam," Reeves ordered, her voice sharp with urgency. As the crew scrambled to comply, the hidden Xylon structure at the edge of the Cardassian system began to unfold. The massive space station of ancient design powered up, emitting a powerful gravimetric field that started to stabilize the moon's erratic orbit and contain the spreading debris field. Nicholas and Aura's merged consciousness, now interfaced with both the lunar artifact and the newly revealed space station, gained access to a vast repository of Xylon knowledge. The influx of information allowed them to further refine the hybrid template, creating a more stable and sustainable form of evolution for the changed populations. As the space station exerted its influence, the chaotic energy fluctuations around Cardassia Prime began to subside. The wormhole network, which had been pulsing erratically, started to stabilize. The immediate threat of system-wide destruction receded, replaced by a new phase of controlled transformation. Admiral Reeves watched as the debris field surrounding her ships began to coalesce, drawn in by the space station's gravimetric field. "All ships, hold position," she ordered. "Let's see how this plays out." On Kardashia Prime, Legate Gamor received reports of the stabilizing situation. He turned to his advisors, his expression a mixture of relief and perseverance. "The immediate crisis may be passing," Gamor said, "but our work is far from finished. We need to understand what this means for our people and our place in the galaxy." As the energy matrix continued to spread, encompassing more of the changed population, Nicholas and Aura's merged consciousness faced a new challenge. Their awareness, now spread across the lunar artifact, the planet's surface, and the space station, grappled with the responsibility of guiding this evolution while maintaining the distinct identities of the changed populations. The convergence process entered its final stages, with Kardassia Prime at its center. The fate of human-alien relations and the nature of consciousness itself hung in the balance as Nicholas and Aura's love story became intertwined with the destiny of countless transformed beings across the galaxy. As Nicholas and Aura's merged consciousness grappled with the complexities of the Xylon network, a subtle shift began to occur. The overwhelming influx of information and energy that had threatened to consume them started to ebb, like a receding tide. Their individual essences, once stretched across vast cosmic distances, began to coalesce and disentangle from the network. The process of separation manifested as visible fluctuations in the energy field surrounding the moon. From the surface of Kardassia Prime, awestruck observers watched as brilliant auroral displays danced across the lunar surface, painting the sky with vibrant hues of green, blue, and purple. On the planet below, the changed Cardassians continued their efforts to assist with the evacuation and recovery operations. Elam, now fully in control of his enhanced abilities, worked tirelessly alongside his fellow citizens. He effortlessly lifted a fallen support beam, allowing a group of unchanged Cardassians to escape from a partially collapsed building. "This way," Elam called out, his voice steady and reassuring. "The evacuation center is just 2 blocks from here." As the group hurried past, Elam noticed a subtle shift in their expressions. The fear and suspicion that had clouded their eyes earlier were now replaced by gratitude and a hint of curiosity. Legate Gamor, recognizing the potential of this newfound cooperation, made a bold decision. He established a joint task force, combining the strengths of both changed and unchanged Cardassians to coordinate recovery operations. This move marked a significant step towards the integration of the transformed population into Cardassian society. In orbit, Admiral Reeves' flagship detected a series of energy pulses emanating from the Xylon space station. The pulses washed over the assembled fleet, temporarily enhancing their systems. On the bridge of her Romulan warbird, Commander Taven's eyes widened as she observed the sudden improvements in her ship's capabilities. Propulsion efficiency has increased by 27%, Taven reported, her fingers dancing across the console. Shields are operating at 115% of normal capacity. Similar reports echoed across the fleet as the enhanced ships maneuvered with newfound agility, more effectively managing the remaining debris field around Kardashia Prime. As Nicholas and Aura's consciousnesses continued to reform, the lunar artifact underwent a dramatic transformation. The massive structure began to contract, its components folding inward with precision. The once sprawling array of transmission equipment and energy conduits compressed into a more compact form, reducing the gravitational stress on the moon and further stabilizing its orbit around Kardashia Prime. On the planet's surface, the exposed Xylon structures that had risen during the convergence started to sink back into the ground. As they descended, they left behind pockets of concentrated Xylon energy. These pockets coalesced into crystalline formations, their facets gleaming with an inner light. The crystals emitted a low-level energy field that continued to stabilize the changed Cardassians' physiology, ensuring that their newfound abilities remained under control. Santhor, his energy form still attuned to the Xylon network, detected a new pattern emerging within the space station's emissions. The station had begun to broadcast a signal that would gradually spread the stabilized hybrid template across the galaxy, affecting other worlds with dormant Xylon artifacts. The wormhole network, now fully stabilized, began to contract. The shimmering portals that had connected distant Xylon-affected worlds started to close one by one. In their place, residual energy signatures formed, creating a network of navigational beacons. These beacons promised to revolutionize interstellar travel and communication, offering new possibilities for exploration and connection across vast cosmic distances. As the immediate crisis subsided, Legate Gamora initiated contact with the Earth Alliance and other major powers. In a subspace transmission to Admiral Reeves, he outlined his proposal for an interstellar council to manage the integration of Xylon technology and change populations across multiple species. "We stand at a crossroads, Admiral," Gamora said, his voice carrying the weight of recent events. "The changes we've experienced have the potential to unite us or divide us further. I believe a collaborative approach is our best path forward." Admiral Reeves nodded, recognizing the potential for long-term stability in Gamora's proposal. "I'll present your idea to Earth Alliance leadership immediately, Legate. This could be the foundation for a new era of interstellar cooperation." As the diplomatic channels buzzed with activity, the Romulan and Klingon fleets began to withdraw from the Cardassian system. Their ships, still humming with the enhanced capabilities granted by the Xylon energy pulses, moved with graceful precision. Commander Taven and General Koth, their own bodies partially transformed by the Convergence, requested permission to send scientific teams to study the Xylon space station. Legate Gamora, in a show of newfound openness, granted their request under the condition of full data sharing. "Let this be the first step towards a more transparent and cooperative future," he declared. On the moon, the compact form of the lunar artifact began to pulse with increasing intensity. The energy field surrounding it expanded, enveloping Nicholas and Aura's reforming physical bodies. As their consciousnesses returned to their corporeal forms, they experienced a final surge of Xylon knowledge. Crucial information about the hybridization process and the long-term management of changed populations imprinted itself on their minds, preparing them for the challenges that lay ahead. The pulsing energy field around Nicholas and Aura intensified, becoming visible from Kardashia Prime as a brilliant flare of light on the moon's surface. The lunar artifact began to unwind itself, revealing a transformed interior chamber where Nicholas and Aura's bodies floated, suspended in the shimmering energy field. As their physical forms became fully tangible, the changes wrought by their merging with the Xylon technology became apparent. Nicholas's skin now bore intricate bioluminescent patterns that shifted and swirled with his emotions, casting a soft, ever-changing glow around him. Aura's protective spikes had transformed into flexible, highly sensitive appendages that moved with fluid grace, capable of interfacing with Xylon technology at the slightest touch. The energy field surrounding them dissipated, gently lowering Nicholas and Aura to the chamber floor. As consciousness returned, they found themselves intimately aware of each other's thoughts and feelings, a residual effect of their merged state. This deep connection manifested physically, with their bioluminescent patterns synchronizing in a mesmerizing dance of light and color. Aura's transformed spikes reflexively extended towards Nicholas, creating a circuit of energy and sensation between them. As they reoriented themselves, the lunar artifact began to generate a breathable atmosphere within the chamber. The structure reconfigured once more, creating a habitable environment tailored to their changed physiologies. Walls smoothed and curved, forming organic shapes that pulsed with soft, bioluminescent light. Holographic interfaces materialized, responding to their thoughts and movements. Nicholas took a deep breath, savoring the feeling of air in his lungs after the timeless expanse of their merged consciousness. He turned to Aura, his eyes wide with wonder and a hint of uncertainty. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice husky from disuse. Aura nodded, her transformed spikes gently curling and uncurling. "I think so. It's, different, but not in a bad way." They took their first tentative steps in their new, hybridized forms, moving towards a newly formed control interface within the chamber. As they approached, the interface sprang to life, displaying a vast array of data about the ongoing galactic transformation. Nicholas and Aura exchanged a look, their synchronized bioluminescent patterns reflecting their shared understanding of the task ahead. They were now guardians of the Xylon legacy, facilitators of a transformation that would reshape the galaxy. As they reached out to touch the interface, their fingers intertwined, a physical affirmation of the deep bond forged through their shared ordeal. The lunar artifact hummed with renewed purpose, its systems fully integrating with Nicholas and Aura's hybridized forms. As they began to explore their new roles and capabilities, the vast expanse of space beyond the chamber pulsed with the promise of a new era dawning for Kardashia Prime and the wider galaxy. Galaxy, a new chapter was about to unfold for Nicholas and Aura. As they approached the control interface within the lunar artifact's chamber, their synchronized bioluminescent patterns cast a soft, pulsating glow throughout the room. Aura's transformed spikes, now highly sensitive and flexible, instinctively reached out to interface with the Xylon technology. The moment they made contact, a holographic display materialized before them, revealing the status of the ongoing galactic transformation. The display showed a mesmerizing array of data streams and visual representations, each depicting the spread of the stabilized hybrid template across the galaxy. Nicholas and Aura watched in awe as countless beings across different species experienced controlled transformations, their bodies and minds adapting to integrate with the ancient technology. "It's happening everywhere," Nicholas breathed, his eyes wide with wonder. "The template is spreading faster than we anticipated." Aura nodded, her spikes gently undulating as she processed the information. "The network is far more extensive than we realized. Look at how it's affecting even species we've never encountered before." Suddenly, an alert flashed on the interface, accompanied by a soft chime that resonated through the chamber. The Xylon space station had detected an incoming vessel approaching at high speed. As the ship entered the Kardashian system, Nicholas and Aura recognized its familiar silhouette. "The Convergence," Aura whispered, her voice filled with a mixture of surprise and excitement. "It's returned." Nicholas reached out, his fingers brushing against the holographic display. "But how? The wormhole network was contracting." As if in response to their questions, the interface updated with new information. The Convergence, guided by its partially sentient systems, had navigated the shifting pathways of the contracting wormhole network to return to its point of origin. Without hesitation, Nicholas and Aura focused their newly enhanced abilities, establishing a direct communication link with the approaching vessel. Their minds reached out across the vastness of space, connecting with the ship's evolved systems. The moment their consciousness touched the Convergence, they were flooded with a rush of information. The ship's systems had undergone a remarkable evolution during its journey, developing a unique form of artificial intelligence that bridged the gap between Xylon technology and modern spacecraft design. "Hey, this is incredible," Nicholas said, his bioluminescent patterns shifting to reflect his excitement. "The Convergence has become something entirely new. It's not just a ship anymore. It's a living, thinking entity." Aura's spikes curled in agreement. "We need to integrate it into our plans. The Convergence could be the key to managing the galactic transformation on a larger scale." Working in perfect harmony, Nicholas and Aura guided the Convergence towards the Xylon space station. As the ship approached, they used their connection to the lunar artifact to clear a path through the debris field, ensuring a safe approach. The moment the Convergence docked with the space station, a surge of energy pulsed through the entire system. Nicholas and Aura felt it like an electric current running through their bodies, causing their bioluminescent patterns to flare brightly. On the surface of Kardashia Prime, the crystalline formations left behind by the receding Xylon structures began to pulse in sync with the space station's energy emissions. In the capital city, Legate Gamor stood on the balcony of the Central Command Center, watching the pulsing crystals with a mix of awe and concern. He turned to his communications officer, his voice urgent. "Contact Admiral Reeves immediately. We need to understand what's happening up there." Within moments, Admiral Reeves' face appeared on the main view screen. The Earth Alliance officer looked equally concerned but composed. "Legate Gamor, I assume you're witnessing the same phenomena we are," Reeves said. "Our sensors are detecting a massive energy surge centered on the Xylon space station." Gamor nodded grimly. "Indeed. I believe it's time we sent a team to investigate the lunar artifact. This situation requires our direct attention." "Agreed," Reeves replied. "I'll assemble a joint team of Cardassian and Earth Alliance representatives immediately. We'll take a shuttle up to the moon and assess the situation firsthand." As the team's shuttle launched from the planet's surface, Nicholas and Aura sensed their approach. Using their connection to the lunar artifact, they created a safe passage through the debris field, guiding the shuttle toward the transformed chamber. Inside the artifact, the chamber began to reconfigure itself once more. Walls shifted and expanded, creating a space suitable for receiving the incoming delegates. Nicholas and Aura stood side by side. Their hybrid forms a striking testament to the transformation they had undergone. The shuttle docked smoothly with the artifact, and moments later the airlock cycled open. Legate Gamor led the delegation, followed closely by Admiral Reeves and a mix of Cardassian and Earth Alliance officials. As they entered the chamber, their eyes widened at the sight of Nicholas and Aura. "Welcome," Nicholas said, his voice carrying a new resonance that seemed to vibrate through the very structure of the artifact. "We have much to discuss." Aura stepped forward, her transformed spikes moving with fluid grace. "The galaxy is changing faster than we anticipated, but with the return of the Convergence, we now have the means to guide this transformation responsibly." As the delegates gathered around the holographic interface, Nicholas and Aura began to explain the recent developments. They detailed the role of the Convergence, the continued spread of the stabilized hybrid template, and their vision for using the lunar artifact as a center for studying and managing the ongoing changes. Legate Gamor listened intently, his mind racing with the possibilities. "This could position Kardashia Prime as a hub of galactic importance," he mused aloud. "A center for research, diplomacy, and interspecies cooperation." Admiral Reeves nodded in agreement. "The scientific and diplomatic opportunities are unprecedented. The Earth Alliance is prepared to offer full support for this initiative." As the discussions continued, Nicholas and Aura felt a subtle shift in their connection to the Xylon network. The overwhelming flood of information and sensations that had threatened to consume their individuality began to subside. They found themselves able to assert their own personalities more fully, even as their bond remained unbreakable. This internal change manifested physically, with their bioluminescent patterns becoming more distinct and personalized. Nicholas's patterns took on a deeper, more intricate complexity, while Aura's spikes developed a subtle iridescence that shifted with her moods. As the delegates worked to draft a preliminary agreement for the proposed Interstellar Council, Nicholas and Aura shared a private moment. Their eyes met, and without words they understood the profound journey they had undertaken together. Aura's protective spikes, now soft and receptive, gently entwined with Nicholas's transformed skin. The contact sent pleasant shivers through both of their bodies, their hybrid physiologies perfectly attuned to each other. In that moment, surrounded by the hum of diplomacy and the pulsing energy of the artifact, they reaffirmed their commitment to each other and to the transformed galaxy they would help guide. The lunar artifact thrummed with renewed purpose, its systems fully integrated with Nicholas and Aura's hybridized forms. As the delegates continued their discussions, the holographic display updated with real-time information from across the galaxy. New worlds were being affected by the Xylon transformation, each presenting unique challenges and opportunities. Nicholas and Aura exchanged a look, their synchronized bioluminescent patterns reflecting their shared understanding of the monumental task ahead. They were now guardians of the Xylon legacy, facilitators of a transformation that would reshape the very fabric of galactic society. With the Convergence as their mobile platform and the lunar artifact as their base of operations, they stood ready to embark on this new chapter of their journey. As the meeting drew to a close, Legate Gamor approached Nicholas and Aura, his expression a mixture of respect and curiosity. I must admit, when I first learned of the changes affecting our people, I was deeply concerned. But seeing what you've accomplished here, the potential for unity and progress, it gives me hope for Kardashia's future. Admiral Reeves joined them, nodding in agreement. We're standing at the threshold of a new era of interstellar cooperation. There will be challenges ahead, but together I believe we can navigate them successfully. Nicholas smiled, his bioluminescent patterns shifting to reflect his optimism. This is just the beginning. With the Convergence integrated into our operations and the Interstellar Council taking shape, we have the tools to guide this transformation responsibly. Aura's spikes curled in anticipation, and we'll need all of you to help us. This isn't just about managing technology, it's about bringing people together, fostering understanding between changed and unchanged populations across the galaxy. As the delegates prepared to return to Kardashia Prime, Nicholas and Aura stood at the chamber's viewport, gazing out at the transformed lunar landscape. The Xylon space station loomed in the distance, now permanently linked with the Convergence. It was a powerful symbol of the merging of ancient and modern technologies, a beacon of hope for the changed galaxy. Nicholas turned to Aura, his hand finding hers. "Are you ready for what comes next?" he asked softly. Aura's spikes gently caressed his arm, sending a pleasant tingle through his hybrid nervous system. "As long as we're together," she replied, her voice filled with perseverance and love. "I'm ready for anything." As the shuttle departed, carrying the delegates back to Kardashia Prime, Nicholas and Aura returned their attention to the holographic interface. The galaxy map pulsed with countless points of light, each representing a world touched by the Xylon transformation. With their enhanced abilities and the resources at their disposal, they prepared to embark on the next phase of their journey, guiding the galaxy through its greatest evolution. The lunar artifact hummed with anticipation, its systems fully integrated with Nicholas and Aura's hybridized forms. As they began to explore their new roles and capabilities, the vast expanse of space beyond the chamber pulsed with the promise of adventures yet to come. The transformed galaxy awaited, and Nicholas and Aura stood ready to meet its challenges head-on, their love and shared purpose lighting the way forward.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.